hiresexpo.com/cosplay. You can sign up there. And shout-outs to the only break that is not my tiny desk. 3 matches down as we get into our 4th matchup here. It's going to be Hype Unit, the console version, versus Obey Alliance. This one should be spicy. Again, someone's going home.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that.
Yeah. Super interesting set this, though, to be fair. Obey yesterday looked super strong in the first game against Simplicity. Then throws at a Fire Giant, loses. Second game just falls over completely, loses super hard. Interested to see if they can turn it around today, because like that's a really bad way to go, I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty tough there. And across the way, Hype Unit console, this team is a team that, if you've been following me at all, I've been very, very high on. I think that they fell down. Well, they did fall down to Out Cold Gaming yesterday, and I was a little bit surprised, to be honest with you. This is their chance for redemption. Everybody playing mouse and keyboard. This isn't like Rival, where you have some players on the controller. These guys have been playing predominantly on mouse and keyboard. These guys have been scrimming minor league teams, pro league teams as well, and having varied levels of success. So we'll see what these guys can do. Oboronic, Layers, these are the 2 guys to look at if you want my money, looking at how this team finds success.
Yeah, Layers against, they did lose against Out Cold, but he played insane. Like, he had his last 4 game, they lost that game, but so many big dunks. He was one-shotting people to the left and the right, so like super good performance. And this set today, I think, can be so good. And I feel this is actually a game where I feel like a SML, even an SML team, a console team can actually beat an SPL team.
I absolutely agree. I think the bigger part of it actually comes down away from the X's and O's. You know, I was poking you before about, having some fun about losing, but really, Hype Unit today is all about how much they can just forget about their loss yesterday. This is a talented team that has what it takes to beat what Obey has done, especially if Obey plays like yesterday, where when you look at the strong points of each team, Obey's strongest point might just be in the jungle. Yesterday, Obey's jungler Weekend had a lot of struggles.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think Moswal has been like the rock and stone for this team. Like, if Moswal has a good game, I feel like he can carry hard on in the mid-late game on these matches, like Merlin, Thoth especially. He played Persephone yesterday. Didn't look super amazing, honestly. First game was really good. Punished the Genetics were playing Terra. They punished that really hard with the Persephone ult. But apart from that, the Persephone didn't look that good, so I don't know. Maybe just go back to the Merlin and Thoth for Moswal, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. Moswal right there trying to figure things out for the mid lane. He and his team had varied levels of success again. Wowy, obviously they wound up losing out to Simplicity, but Wowy has been a shining point for this team as well.
Yeah, super impressive this whole season, I think. Like, super solid player in all. Plays everything as well. Can place the Hunters, can place the Mages, like kind of what you want in the dual lane now, so.
Wowy is a great player on a team that has had some inconsistent success. Yes or no? Wowy is this year's Fun Ball.
This year's Fun Ball.
Meaning Fun Ball has found himself on kind of lower end teams, a lot to prove, etc., etc.
I think Wowy has probably shown more promise than Funballer did back on SK, I'd say. So I think Wowy has probably looked better this year than what Funballer did back on SK. From what I can remember, at least. I mean,
it's similar thought processes where the players around him kind of, we're waiting for them to step up to his level of prowess, pretty much. Mineral has been a late call-up here. We'll see what they can do on the field. P's and B's, pretty please, as we jump into game numero uno. Obey with the first choice. Hype Unit on the other side. They'll be figuring things out, and so our picks and bans start off with a Morrigan ban.
Yeah, respect that ban a lot. Crimson on Hype Unit played that super well yesterday, so I can definitely see what they banned at.
Persephone, despite Moswal's lackluster performance, that's going to be banned out. The Hercules will be banned. That's a look at Inbound. Inbound has this very similar playstyle to what we see out of players like Aurora and Raffer and Neil Ma, albeit to a lower level, no disrespect intended, but still very aggressive, loves to solo invade. The Circuit does well there as well. Yeah,
really don't want to deal with what Inbound is looking to do in the early game with the Herc and Circuit support. So smart bans by Obey overall, I think.
Does leave Thor open, and Weekend will grab the Lightning Man. We'll see if Mjolnir can do what he needs to do here. Hype unit now trying to respond to the Thor selection. Jormungandr will be a choice. Wolves looks very good on this guy. And the follow-up will be the set. Whether this winds up in the jungle or the carry, it's scary.
Probably for Layers, I think. Had a really good showing on set every game he played it so far, I think. And like he seemed to really like it. I've never been a big fan of set jungle. But like this guy really made it seem really strong, so I would assume this goes to the jungle.
When it comes to set, it's less that I'm not a fan of set jungle and I just like him everywhere else a little bit better. But I'm not gonna, like you said, I'm not gonna say no to the performance that we saw out of Layers. And of course, this keeps it flexible. Right now, Hype can put it either place depending on where oBe is gonna go.
Oh.
Merlin and Athena. Athena has been Minerals, the support player's kind of standout choice.
Yeah. Love both of these picks from oBe. Obviously Merlin, I talked about it before. I want to see Moswal on Thoth or Merlin play so good on them gods. Also the Athena. oBe did the exact same thing yesterday whenever they were against Set. Although yesterday Set was in the duo lane. But like Athena makes it so safe because now Wowy can play ADC. He played Huyi against the Set yesterday. But if Set anytime look to aggress on him, Athena will just out over and like they will win that 2v1. So really smart Athena pick.
Love the Thoth selection here. Crimson, this just might be his best character in the game, and it can flex over to middle lane, Oboronic if really needed, but I expect this to be Crimson's choice. Very dangerous when he gets the Thoth guy in his hand. Again, you're a big fan of this choice. What do you have to say about Thoth?
Just so good, kind of underpicked right now. I think it might be because Thoth has a lot of hard counters to him, like hard CC. Obviously, he has no CC immunity in his kit. He can't get over walls. You have some counters there, the Cabrakan, the Odin, the MORWolves. But it's just like mainly hard CC, like Dai, Blink Athena, Thor. Like them kind of gods can really make it hard for Thoth. So I think that's why we don't see him as much. But like if he doesn't have to deal with that, like he can do so much.
Hoodie Oboronic waiting for oBe to figure out where they're going to go with their ban. Cabrakan will be the ban. Interesting, because as you mentioned, it's strong against Thoth.
Yeah, sure. They probably don't look to play it anyway. Mainly Inbowned played this yesterday and did really well with it, so that's probably why they're taking it away. Also one of them early game gods that can be kind of annoying. If he gets rolling early game to Cabrakan, so much damage. Even though he's in the support role, still has so much damage, so much CC, so just annoying to deal with in general.
Olaran and King Arthur, the round 2 bans here for Hype unit. oBe Alliance looking to follow up their Cabrakan ban here. Going deep into the clock time as we have conversation about it. Again, this is an elimination game. Best of 3, but he who loses goes home. Khepri will be the ban of choice here for oBe. Interesting. Not exactly where I expect Hype unit to go traditionally. But oBe might have some notes that we don't about what's going on behind closed scrim doors.
Yeah, for sure. Like what we've seen so far from Inbound has been mostly this early game support. And honestly, Khepri can be that. Khepri with Blink early game actually can look for a lot of opportunities with his Abduct. So not a bad ban. And honestly, Khepri is solid god in general. I feel like makes your carries feel super safe. Long range CC can help out with wave clear in the early game too if that is needed. So I like the ban.
Hype unit now on the clock. They've got a Jormungandr, a Set, and a Thoth. Still need a support player. And Set up in the air as to where it's going to go. Mid lane matchup here. Moswal versus Oboronic. As I said, Oboronic with the hoodie up. That bodes well for Hype. They're thinking about the Fenrir.
Not sure if I love the Fenrir here. I don't know what Fenrir would be, especially because he's not that good against Merlin, because Merlin has a super easy time to just dash out of the Fenrir jump. He can dash out of the Brutalize as well. So don't like the Fenrir too much against Merlin. Don't think it's too good against Thor or Athena either, but as we said, once an aggressive support, right, that is Fenrir, so I would assume it's Fenrir support.
That's where I'm thinking as well. I would expect Inbound to go in this direction for sure. Hype unit still discussing it while we go over to oBe, and they have the time on their side. Thor, Merlin, Athena. Thor could flex into that carry role, although knowing oBe, it's probably unlikely. That is almost undoubtedly Weekend's God pick. Merlin and Athena here. It's almost undoubtedly the mid and the support, but let me check myself as Susano is hovered as well. Thor is flexible. And that could mean that Weekend's playing Susano.
Yeah, I suppose this would be 4 solo then for Ducky against Jormungandr. I don't know how that matchup goes, but I guess it should be fine for 4. If 4 can start free farming in that matchup and start proxying and stuff, he's super annoying to deal with 4 solo, because as soon as he's missing from solo lane, anyone's around mid is always scared, because he can go into any camp and you start ulting and dunking mid, right? Super annoying to deal with 4 rotations.
Getting Thor and Athena rotating, there's going to be no 1v1 for Hype Unit whatsoever. And while Hype Unit is very aggressive with Fenrir,
what you cannot see.
Well, they're going to match fire with fire. Chernobog can show up to any fight that Thor and Athena show up to. Do you like that decision?
Sure. I mean, I think for Chernobog, if it doesn't struggle too much early game, I think it's so good. Like his kit, he's like the perfect hyper carry ADC in my opinion when he gets some items online. So safe, can dash into wall, can stay there, global out, like just a super sick pick in general, as long as he doesn't get punished early game.
Hype Unit's mid laner oBoronic has been very successful on the Dark Lord carry. Really enjoyed what Chernobog has done for Hype Unit throughout the regular season. We'll see if it continues to be fruitful for them in the postseason. Obey though, Thor, Susano, Merlin, Medusa, a little bit squishy, not a whole lot of frontline here. They're going to rely a lot on the control that these characters bring.
Yeah. Obey's played this comp before. They had Athena support and they had Merlin mid and Medusa ADC. If you don't have beats for that taunt, you get Medusa ulted into Merlin combo. That's a lot of damage.
That's the old school one, right? Don't look at me, look at me. Uh-oh, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Hype Unit, on the other hand, how do they respond to that? Thoth doesn't have any CC immunity in the ult or in the kit whatsoever. That will be an issue going forward. Gotta make sure that he's got his relics anytime those two characters are around for sure. Hype Unit in general have a very strong draft with Jormungandr, Set, Thoth. Are they the ones with the stronger draft up and down though?
I don't know. I don't really see what this Fenrir is gonna do unless he gets off to a really good early game and makes it hard for Obey in the early game. I don't really like the Fenrir pick too much here. Fenrir is pretty good against Medusa, as he can follow her, the Brutalize follows her dash, right? But then again, if it's gonna be support Fenrir, Medusa can probably just turn around and dash straight into the Fenrir and like return the favor, you know, so we'll see how that goes.
Up and down for sure. Hype Unit have some tools. Obey's got some tools, to be honest with you, as well. This one should be close and kind of dangerous. I expect a high kill count. I definitely don't expect a slow-paced game. I think this is going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, for sure. I do think if we hit the mid game, I think Obey is probably going to win with experience, and they're going to utilize this Athena combo a lot. There's going to be Athena taunts into Medusa, ults into Merlin damage. So like I would give this to Obey, but good draw for Hype Unit as well.
You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't agree, but we'll leave it to the battlefield. Obey and Hype Unit taking the field now.
Thank you, Tom and Zeros, Agro, and Anatoly with you on the cast to close out day number 2 of Hi-Rez Expo's Placement Week. And this is a big one, Toly. Probably the matchup that we'd expect to be the closest on paper today is Obey Alliance up against Hype Unit. Hype has looked good so far this week. A little bit of a disappointing loss for them yesterday up against Out Cold, but certainly one that they can try and remedy here up against Obey.
But also a disappointing loss for Obey Alliance, falling to Simplicity at 0-2. A lot of people in the bracket predictions probably thought this would have been Simplicity up against Hype Unit in the console side of things. So both teams having to now fight off against each other. Very aggressive all-in draft, it feels like, out of Hype Unit. Their front line between the Set, Fenrir, Jormungandr. If they go in, I just don't see how they realistically peel for their backline. oBoronic and Crimson having to run for themselves.
Definitely very dive-oriented, which is a little bit concerning, I would say, with how good the peel can be from Obey. Merlin peels for himself pretty well, usually by way of damage. Wowy's got some good CC in it as well. See if that comes to fruition. Inbound all over Weekend on his own speed buff. Mineral unsuccessful in stealing away the enemy speed. Inbound's picked up a horrific emblem at level 1. And that forces Weekend back. He doesn't get any speed XP. And Inbound not even going to try and stop and do the speed himself. He's going to try and go in there and contest this red 1v2. Looks like he might just get there in time. No, Moswal does secure it. This Hype Unit instead going to group up around this right-hand side, and blue buff goes the way of Hype Unit.
Yeah, not able to steal that one away, unfortunately, was Mineral. Still sitting at 19 experience per minute, but former LG support Inbound definitely has a couple of pages of Weekend's playbook, so he understands the opening starts and tendencies from the Susano jungle as he reunites with him again.
Nowhere Weekend goes will Inbound be able to be found. I mean, he is just all over him. And not only are they former teammates, they play it with each other a lot on Weekend Stream. You can see Inbound on there with them, so you know that these two, it's always a little bit fun going up against your friends and former teammates on the other side, but at the same time, it just adds that much extra to the match. A little bit more bragging rights whenever you get to remind your friend that you're the one who won the head-to-head.
And I'm not sure if Obey have been preparing for this kind of an opening out of Inbound this aggressive, because Weekend sharing experience with Wowy in the long lane. Very uncharacteristic for a jungler to do that, to open up the game. Normally they're ganking with purpose, not to share a wave entirely, whereas we saw Inbound, he made a rotation, but he didn't sit in the lane to absorb that experience. So Crimson should hit that level 5 marker first.
Oh, a huge wave over here in the solo lane for Ducky, and he's going to lose, feels like a pretty good portion of it. Wolves has been able to push him under tower. Seems like Ducky's just trying to clear out as much as he can so he doesn't lose at all toward the tower. We've seen a lot more Jorm again this week so far, Toli. Just feels like there isn't much threat. You can first pick him without a whole lot of worry about what the enemy team's going to do.
It just feels like it's the Jade Emperor's Crown effect. It's such a good Guardian item with the -30 physical power that you're applying. It's hard to really trade out. And unless you have like some sort of displacement to activate the passive effect from Wolves' Jormungandr, you're not going to really win that matchup.
It's very hard. And then even if you do, it feels like you're not doing it consistently enough. We're going to try and apply it right here. Wolves in trouble of falling down for first blood, and indeed he will be Obey's first victim. They get off to a good start on the right side of the map, and they might find something on the left as well. Inbound, Horrific Emblem, and Unchained to leap away, so they change targets towards Oboronic. Shell comes through for Mineral just to make sure Wowy's safe. And Obey Alliance secure their own red. A 1-for-0 start for them, and they secure their buff on the left.
Well, you might not win the 1v1 matchup, but you better win the 2v1. Great rotation coming through from Weekend to get that first blood bounty for himself that was struggling to start as he was getting harassed by Inbound. This is good confidence now for Weekend to be able to start making plays all over the map, and then at the same time on the left side to not only almost get the kill on Inbound, but defending their red buff successfully. Now picking it up as Wowy should be comfortable in this long lane up against Crimson's Thoth.
I mean, Layers went through the first part of the early game completely unfettered. No harassment at all from what Mineral was able to do in the early game. Sure, he had to kind of 50-50 the speed. That goes his way. That 50-50's blue. That goes his way. And still, he fell behind in XP per minute so far. Even before that first blood, I'm pretty sure Weekend had a slight edge on him. Layers, I mean, Set doesn't have the fastest clear early on, but neither does Susano.
It came down to sharing the wave on the left side a lot, and because of that, that's the difference in the jungle category. And you would expect Crimson to be ahead in the experience from Wowy as a result of that, but because of that red buff secure and a lot of grouping up, Crimson sacrifices a lot of farm on the left. But now that he's level 5 with the Final Judgment, there's still some kill potential. Now, as long as Inbound can get the Ragnarok, stuns out the correct target, trying to probably catch out Mineral. When you draft the Fenrir, it's normally because you have one individual target in mind to bully the entire game. That target is going to be Mineral's Athena.
Still only sitting at level 4, and Inbound is going to be there to try and punish him. That's where you see this Fenrir pick come into fruition, I think, because I agree with what Zeros was saying on the desk. Otherwise, doesn't look that great. Inbound gets interrupted right as he tries to brutalize, and Ducky's full combo secures kill number 2 for Obey Alliance. Jungler 2 coming out of the right side of the map, and good ward vision from Obey open up that opportunity.
Almost got away with the brutalize, but the tail end of it, Ducky had the presence of mind to identify where that enemy support was, and that's the power of the global pressure in the solo lane. It doesn't have to come out of the jungle. Thor has a lot of merit to being in the solo lane with a passive amplifying 10 physical power. He's going to try to trade out and then using that global pressure on even a support. Even though Mineral is a target from Hype Unit, I could say the same thing for Inbound for Obey.
Feels like one that they might be able to exploit. Inbound known for his very aggressive play. Oftentimes paying off, oftentimes making him fall behind, but setting his team up for some degree of success. Reminds me of Raffer in that way. Certainly not as successful as Raffer in his career. No one is. Though I guess Inbound actually kind of is. He's back-to-back world champion.
It's true.
Raffer did it too.
Between, what, Myth in the Season 4 and then...
No, they won last year. But, oh, that's right. Inbound wasn't on that roster. Because that was Chapo who played at the time. So, but Bobby still won too because he won with Myth. The rest of the roster is back-to-back. Only one in a row so far for Bobby. So he's slacking, for sure.
He's got some, you know, awards and trophies there on his wall hanging, so you can't feel too mad about that. Having a couple of weeks of SPL experience as well. Wolves in a little bit of trouble, though.
Typhoon ready, but Weekend decides not to use it. He'll settle for chasing out that World Serpent from Wolves. That opens up the door for so many opportunities now for Obey Alliance, and it feels like Hype Unit just came in and have not set the pace quite yet. And I feel like that's because of how poorly this Fenrir does against a lot of the other matchups without his ultimate. Ducky with the rotation in, Typhoon charged very early, doesn't find a home, but Ducky will. Stuns out Layers, but he's looking for Oboronic. Can't quite find him as Weekend has to use the beads in response to Inbound's Ragnarok. Big damage coming from Moswal. 2 pulled back in by that Vortex, but not enough. Final Judgment hits 1. Weekend still alive until Crimson finally is able to put him down. Both junglers have met their fate in the enemy side of the map. But finally, Wowy's able to join up, and that'll be enough to chase off the rest of this engagement.
Nightmare out of Oboronic. He needs to find something. Mineral is the target. No dash available out of this one. He gets off the shield, but the secondary hit, not enough. At the end of the day, it is a 2-for-1. Favoring out Hype Unit off of the aggressive style out of Obey. A little bit too ambitious. Because it worked the last time with Ducky's rotation, they wanted to extend it for a second time, but great separation out of Hype Unit, seeing that from a mile away.
Felt like a weird engagement from Obey from a couple different angles. Number one, Weekend uses Typhoon so early to try and set up Ducky's dunk, but he can just save that for the later part of the fight, can he?
Yeah, I think he wanted to get a real quick knock up and then allow an easier time to aim that Anvil of Dawn, but instead both ultimates were kind of wasted early on. The ultimate out of Mineral I don't think connects as well for the damage. Hype Unit recognized it and backed on off just in time.
This time Inbound does have Ragnarok available. Doesn't result in a kill right away, but ultimately does because Weekend loses those purification beats. Also a great rotation in from Crimson. It's not often that you see the enemy long laner, can't say ADC these days, locked into a rotation on the right side of the map 6.5 minutes in, but Crim shows up and gets both kills for himself, a double for him, so certainly worth his time on that rotation.
And taking fights these early for Obey Alliance. No harm, no foul if it goes south, because they're not losing Pyromancer, they're not losing the Gold Fury as well.
Beads used by Layers after Mineral's taunt. Here comes Ducky once more, but they know this is coming. Inbound already has that Ragnarok locked and loaded for the CC immunity. But that seems like a trade that Obey is willing to take. No CDR quite yet for Ducky, but he has been active very early in this game.
As he should, playing the Thor. He doesn't need to sit in that long or short lane for getting the farm. He could just hammer, clear the big minion, walk on out, because him just being in the jungle alone creates such a big threat if you know that Anvil Dawn is available. You gotta be worried if you're Baron saying like, oh, Thor's in the jungle, okay, well let me look on my respective left side of the map just to avoid that.
Feels like Hype Unit starting to settle down a little bit into this game. Inbound not too far behind at this point. He's even picked up a Chalice of the Oracle to make sure that there's plenty of ward vision for Hype Unit. It seems like they've dedicated that extra ward vision to the right side of the map. Weekend's backs warded. The most common pathing from Ducky towards mid warded. It seems like that's more the area they're worried about, probably because Ducky's been so active.
That's true. Weekend getting that first blood this early on means that the adjustments from Hype Unit is to cater towards Wolves. If this Jormungandr can get online a little earlier, start making the rotations to at least match that of Ducky, maybe not faster, but playing cleanup crew for the Jormungandr wouldn't be a bad idea.
Inbound, taunted. Oh, gets away from the damage from Moswal. This draft from Hype Unit surprised me a little bit because the entire second half of phase number 2, conversation about Obey Alliance was pretty one-dimensional. It was, did Moswal get Thoth or Merlin? If so, they look like a really hard team to beat. If not, we probably are favored against them. And Hype Unit leave both up. They let Moswal take the Merlin. Were you surprised by that?
A little bit, but at the same time, not really, because you gotta ban away the Isis and the Persephone.
Feels like the second pick is pretty behind the 8 ball overall as Layers gets taunted and loses half his health.
But even off of the Persephone and Isis ban, Obey Alliance, they first picked the Thor, so Hype Unit could have easily played Merlin if they wanted to. Oboronic plays Merlin quite often as well, but instead they opted for the Jormungandr for Wolves and then set for Layers. Maybe they were worried that Ducky was going to play the set in that short lane and didn't like the Jormungandr versus set matchup. So they catered really heavily towards this solo lane that still got exploited by Weekend's early rotation.
Hasn't cost Wolves too much, though, despite Ducky really shoving his hand in the cookie jar early and often in this game. Wolves has been able to stay pretty even in farm. As you highlighted earlier on when talking about Jorm, as soon as you get this Jade Emperor's crown, I feel like Ducky hasn't even wasted his time hitting on Wolves most of this lane. He's really just been dedicated to clearing the wave. Jade Emperor just makes it so hard to outtrade him.
And it just goes to show the difference of the slash line. 1-0-2 for Ducky, sitting at level 11, as opposed to the 0-1-1 for Wolves, that's level 12. Doesn't mean you're going to be winning in the experience category. You have to be very efficient with your farming. You can't be splitting the wave so often with Weekend, maybe with Mineral as well.
Red buff invade successful from Obey Alliance, but Wowy's going to take some damage on the way out. Inbound, looking for a little bit more, and Boronic's right there with him. Ragnarok picks up one, and Final Judgment should secure it. Mineral falls even up the kills 3-3, and that is what this Fenrir pick is designed to do.
As a support, it's so hard to survive against Fenrir because you want to get a team fight in relics, such as the Shell. Weekend, though, trying to disengage, he should be fine. And so Mineral picking up the Shell means he has no purification meter. It's a getaway.
Found quite a bit of damage onto Wowy. It's like he may have actually been leveling that Brutalize, because that did an awful lot of damage just at level 9, even with the tank boots. He is actually leveling Brutalize. That's interesting, because most of the time you see these support Fenrirs level the 1, a little bit more, max the 1, I should say, a little bit more often, especially when there's so few good Brutalized targets here for him.
I mean, the only two players that can stop the Brutalize is Ducky's Thor wall stun or Mineral's taunt. Knockups don't really affect the Brutalize, so
Sure.
you can't get Arcane pulled by Moswal, and Weekend can't win Siphon or Typhoon you.
No, but Weekend can jet stream. That teleport cancels it. Flicker
Sure.
cancels.
Sure.
The hammer toss will cancel when you teleport.
But
there's a lot of TPs.
You can also chase down the Athena dash if you know taunt is down. You can chase down the Medusa dash, and you can chase down the Susano third Stormkata dash.
Yep. So as long as you have those mobility options covered for those characters.
So
then
there's pros and cons for both sides, but I like the idea of Brutalize if you're going to be ganking Wowy on the Medusa more often than not.
Moswal knows he's been spotted. He has relics up, but Inbound still lurking. Hasn't jumped in quite yet. Horrific Emblem on cooldown. He used that to get the beads from Wowy on the left-hand side. We saw him chase him underneath the tier 2 tower. So that means Wowy's a little bit vulnerable, but he has more on-demand CC immunity than Mineral does. Mineral, even if he were to use Defender of Olympus to immune a pickup by Ragnarok, I mean, he still has to stand in place in the middle of a team fight for a long time. A little surprised Mineral doesn't go for the purification beads early. That's what we see a lot against these Fenrir comps, because this happens time after time. Mineral actually might survive. Final Judgment chases him, but Inbound is on it as well. Crimson getting low. Oboronic exits the wall at 1 HP, but Layers is going to clean up Wowy. Crimson trying to get around the wall. Weakens beads, will secure the kill. It's a 2-for-2 so far until Ducky rejoins the fray. Inbound stunned out, and Ducky gonna look for the finishing blow. Just needs the hammer toss, waits out the jump, and perfectly double taps him on the way out. 3-for-2 for Obey Alliance.
Good play out of the SPL team. Ducky and Wolves making an impact at the end of that one, but purification beats for Ducky makes sure he got that third kill. A great Petrify from Wowy that heavily disrupted Hype Unit's intentions. It took a little bit longer than they would have wanted to kill out Mineral because the channel from Crimson's Final Judgment had to have been reset, and because of that, it was Inbound that committed to the Brutalize. He chased down Mineral's dash, which did secure the kill, but by that point of the end of the dash, he was too far out of position to get back into safety.
Oboronic in trouble, no beats for him. Does have Aegis, he'll use it here, but Moswal's already flickered in. Even with Mineral coming, he's gotten awfully low. Inbound trying to chase it down, but just can't quite close the gap. Moswal holds on to both relics in that situation too.
Yeah, Moswal having that Doom Worm, that extra mobility from killing that wave, got him away from Inbound.
Big damage out of Wowy off one taunt from Mineral. Gonna slow Inbound down as well, but Weekend no blink, so we can't get up and over this wall. Looks like both Oboronic and Layers actually use the Aegis there. Excuse me, in that little scuffle underneath mid-tier 1. This is a composition that you can't really afford to not have relics against. They've just got a lot of damage especially AoE damage here on Obey.
Ducky trying to defend his own backcamps, runs right into Inbound in a 1v3, still holding on to his ultimate, knowing that he has backup with Mineral and Moswal around this corner. Good control, space control from Obey Alliance's draft. The Merlin has good damage, right? You're looking at Wowie's Petrify and weakens Typhoon. It's hard for Hype Unit to clump up and commit beyond enemy lines.
So much AoE, and it's CC at the same time. I mean, Petrify can stun you or slow you, depending on if you're looking at Medusa or not. Typhoon's the big knock-up. Blizzard from Moswal is going to slow you. Ducky's Anvil of Dawn will stun. I mean, it's not just AoE damage, it's damage and CC. I think this composition from Obey Alliance is the exact type that are some of the hardest to play against in all of SMITE. It's not a particularly execution-heavy composition like we see some teams run. This is just plain and simple. We cover a lot of ground, and we do a lot of damage, and we have a lot of CC on top of that.
It's a lot of wiggle room to make mistakes for Obey's draft and still come out on top at the end of the day, whereas Hype Unit, once they commit, there's just no way out realistically for them, so that's why Obey, I'm favoring them a little bit in the draft category, but despite all that, we haven't seen either team commit to this objective yet on the left side of the map.
Weekend puts out some good damage. Hydra's Lament done for him, and immediately his damage numbers get boosted. Wolves does make the rotation, and he may have been heard when he popped up from that emerge, but he was just here to check on this Gold Fury. Immediately back to base for him. Does have teleport. They decide to use it to try and keep pressure on this right-hand side. Dumpy's tower, those early rotations certainly reflected in his tower's HP.
It definitely was, and with Wolves backing there, he picks up the Stone of Binding and still holds on to that relic, knowing that at any given moment, that Gold Fury can be started at the drop of a dime, but still not seeing it, which is surprising because Crimson has great secure with that final judgment. And Hype Unit before in placement and in the console wars have pulled the trigger on some of the objectives, but they've certainly slowed it down in this first game.
I love Ducky's build. Plenty of extra options to stay pretty safe and deal relevant damage at the same time. Tons of HP through the Runic Shield and the Blackthorn Hammer. That Runic very, very good against what Crimson and Wolves are going to be putting out. And then a Glad Shield late, but I actually don't mind it too much because this enables him to really dive in these team fights. When you Thor dunk in and you start getting those lightning procs proc Glad Shield. You're going to heal for a ton.
Yeah, especially when Hype Unit are clumping up the way they have been. But speaking of builds as well, Mineral opting for the Mad Guy's Cloak. I was going to mention it earlier, but there was a lot of action going on as we were talking about Shell being picked up as opposed to the Beads. There's still other options you can go despite going for a team fighting Relic. Mad Guy's Cloak is one, and Spirit's Robe is another.
Mount taunted and pulled around. Regan has to use the beams. The Typhoon charges up. Doesn't find Crimson, who's charging that Final Judgment, but he doesn't fire it because Ducky's all over him. Final Judgment does come through. It hit Wowy, but he's able to escape with a sliver of HP. Weekend trying to make sure that no one on Hype Unit does the same. Turns around and puts Bobby in the dirt. Weekend with number 7 for Obey Alliance. A good Thor wall from Ducky may keep it going as Moswal finds a second. And that was nearly a bloodbath for either side. Lots of low health bars on each team.
That Shell coming in huge for Mineral, honestly. And then the taunt at the very end onto Layers that was about to get the return kill onto a fleeting Weekend at the end of it all, making it 0 deaths for Obey as they pick up 2 kills, but still not getting the objective quite yet, respecting the damage potential out of Crimson.
Finally, Obey will go to this objective, and no one from Hype Unit looks ready to contest. Good decision to reset from Obey, of course, a low HP Gold Fury. This pushes their lead to a noticeable lead for the first time so far this game. 2,500 in both experience and gold. I feel like that's the first real noticeable lead of this match so far. A very close contest between these two sides. We've seen this AoE from Obey that we highlighted really come into play so far, but Hype Unit's dive potential is only getting better, totally. I mean, Crimson is only going to deal more and more damage as this game goes on. Wolves is going to continue to get tankier, and Layers' one-shot potential is going to go way up.
I think there's a lot of pressure for Crimson, though, in some of these diving attempts, because if he's off the mark accuracy-wise, then Hype Unit's aggression all goes to waste, especially if they're going to be playing defense if Obey start to kind of ramp things up with all the control that they have with their draft. Not really seeing too much control out of Moswal as he's not opting to go for any utility of Gem of Isolation, instead going for penetration with a Divine Ruin and then expecting potentially Spear of Magus here.
Tier 1 tower goes down, no contest from Hype Unit. It's too low for it to be worth their time. Obey gonna go towards this Pyromancer. Look at the carry relic situation for Hype Unit. No beads or Aegis for either Oboronic or Crimson, so that's why Obey wants to force this. Crimson is local. He's inbound again on the receiving end of quite a bit of damage. Moswal's pumping DPS at this point. Wolves right into the back line, charges his ultimate as Crimson was being hunted. What? Wowy died to that ultimate. I figured he'd be able to juke it out, but Wolves nice and accurate on those shots, just as Crimson is with someone set up for him. Ducky falls down. Layers gets the last hit, but it's inbound with that big assist. Mineral now isolated and put down, a 3-for-0 in what looked to me like an innocent skirmish.
It really did, but everyone was just too separated from Obey Alliance in like 3 different star formations, so Hype Unit picking up the pieces, going for a tier 1 mid tower of themselves as Moswal could be in trouble on his tier 2 tower.
He's really, really low, but understands how much damage he's gonna take. Not enough to use a relic. Oswald doesn't defend the tier 1, but don't think that was a realistic ask. At any point, Crimson dashes forward, forces Weekend back. No final judgment for him, but you can already tell how much damage Crimson's doing.
And this is the difference, I think, between an early game Fenrir that doesn't have defense versus 3 items completed. Inbound absorbed all the abilities from Obey Alliance, and then the counter fire allowed them to win that fight cleanly to get this objective down.
You were speaking of fire, Tolly. How about a Fire Giant? 23 minutes in, Hype Unit get the Fire Giant. They were the ones on the counter engage. It was Obey Alliance who wanted to pull that Pyromancer, thinking that Hype Unit would likely just give it up. They have underestimated their opponents in that moment because Hype Unit came in and brought the fight back onto their side. Wolves has been left, but he has ultimate. Should be okay. I mean, how does that fight go so poorly for Obey?
Inbound was so tanky. The Oni Hunter Garb with a 9% damage mitigation really bought him enough time to reset the team fight long enough for everyone else to pop off. Great disengage from Oboronic that was getting targeted by Ducky, but no one can really avoid Wolves on the backside using that World Serpent. I think there was too much AoE damage from Crimson that chipped Wowy down. Probably got hit by the final judgment. Otherwise, I don't see how he got that low in the first place.
Wolves was able to do a lot of that damage himself, too. He had just finished that Stone of Binding, which is such a big power spike item for Jorm. Those little puddles, they seem pretty innocent, but that just is guaranteed pen.
Applies a little bit of a slow, 15 penetration on top of it. He already doesn't have penetration with the shoes, going for shoes of focus instead, but I don't necessarily hate it if you're going to pair that up with another CDR item.
Tier 2 tower down. Now on Obey's side of the map, only 2 tier 2s remaining. Oni Fury due to spawn in about a minute, but feel like Hype Unit can get a little bit more done before that starts happening. Wolves undeterred, and look at this. Oboronic actually going to go for Weekend in the jungle. They spotted him out with that use of Into Darkness. Peeked up, but beads are solid. Mineral was there at the same time, but another few resources expended on Obey Alliance's side. Still did cost Hype Unit 2 ultimates, though.
It did, but Weekend used Blink and his beads. Mineral had to use the ultimate. There's all fair on this side of the battleground of the gods.
Tier 2 tower siege begins. Oboronic pretty far back. It looks like Hype Unit a little bit gun shy now on this tower. Remember, they were in the lead up against Out Cold in Game 3, and then a bad Tier 1 tower siege went awry for Hype Unit. They end up losing that set. Wonder if that weighs on them here. So those sorts of things happen way more, I think, in the tournament as opposed to just your week-to-week games. The proximity of your bad decisions, I think, weighs on you a little bit more.
Well, with Crimson playing the Thoth, I think they're looking for poke damage before committing onto this Tier 2 tower. No real sustain from Obey Alliance to receive that poke and then reset, but there's still another minute and 15 seconds for Hype Unit to play with this buff. 2 more waves to work with on the right side of the map, so that's why Layers is split pushing in the mid alongside Inbound, trying to catch some stragglers.
Minerals dashed. Surprised that Hype Unit hasn't just gone for Oni Fury. This seems a little bit stubborn to stick around on this right-hand side, but it looks like it may have paid off because all of a sudden there's a bunch of space. Obey was thinking the same thing I was, that it might be time to call it off and go for the Fury. But Hype Unit come right on back, and they do crumble the second to last Tier 2 standing on Obey's side of the map. 45 seconds still remaining on the buff. think that they'd be able to at least get something else, but with this back in mass, oBe Alliance realized that it might be their turn to go for Oni.
Even without Fire Giant on Hype Unit's waist, I think they can still try to go for it with their kind of team fighting power, but it's oBe that establishes positioning and the control first. Wolves needs to be careful.
Clearly spotted out by what oBe had on that side of the map, just the big body betraying Wolves in that moment. Thoth on the inbound, that's a lot of damage. He has to jump away right away, and Wolves goes in to try and assist. Crimson's ultimate that time didn't find a home, but neither did Ducky's. Inbound still juking around. Wolves gonna try and back it up. As Inbound brings Oboronic and Crimson a present that they might not want. It's a full health solo laner. And Ducky takes a good amount of poke. Boronic's beads save him from the Petrify combo. Bit of a mess as Layers decides to go in a little bit late. He takes a good chunk.
Good slow
of
onto
his HP.
Mineral now. He's going to be in a little bit of trouble, but he has the Mag Ice Club to prevent that knock-up. Ducky and everyone else getting slowed by that living nightmare, but no one dies at the end of the day with this Oni Fury still up. Hype Unit, they didn't start this objective, but it looks like they're going to finish it.
I don't know. Typhoon comes through, but Hype Unit does get the Oni Fury. But this fight might just be oBe's. Boronic no beads. He's in a bad spot. Beautiful wall by Ducky. And Hype Unit have realized their mid laner cannot be saved. They ditch him and try and get out of dodge. Crimson gonna keep Moswal rather at bay as he was chasing down Wolves, but Fire Giant coming up right now. About to spawn, and Boronic's dead for 30 plus.
And I don't think he'll have the ultimate once he does respawn, so it's important to see how Hype Unit defend this. They have access to the final judgment, but oBe, knowing this, are going to wait it out a little bit and start the baby Pyromancer.
Much more guaranteed call from oBe Alliance. Wolves still wants to get involved. A couple Magi's on each side. I like the idea of the Magi's for both Weaken and Mineral. Not a lot of CC on Hype Unit's side of the map. I mean, they've got just what Inbound has for the most part. Wolves' knock-up will be there, but Boronic's combo is slow and a bit unwieldy at times. Crimson, if he wants to dash in to stun me, sure, or root me. I feel like Magi's is really good against compositions just like this, where it's very hard for them to find you with consistent CC.
But it's also the little slows that's going to stack up from Layers with the skewers. It's such a short cooldown, and with 30%, that's 7 seconds. All of a sudden it becomes 4.9, and Ducky going to get stunned out, knocked up, going to get chased down.
Picked up Wowy. It's not Ducky. He's actually going to take to the sky, but Wowy's already been killed. It's Crimson who finds his fourth. That fully evolved Shaman's Ring paying dividends for the long laner for Hype Unit, and right back towards FG they go. Only 40 or 50 seconds until that Fire Giant becomes enhanced, but it looks like Weekend and the boys have decided to give this one up. Weekend split pushing on that left-hand side, I think, is what tip-top Hype Unit in the first place.
Yeah, no time to waste for Hype Unit seeing Weekend on the left side, and this is something that he likes to do a lot.
He does.
Despite winning or losing, he seems to always kind of do his own thing, realizing that map control is important, yes, but not at the cost of Fire Giant, because now Hype Unit have a lot of a window to be able to get their own tier 2 towers and even exposed Phoenixes.
I mean, they get a tier 2 in mid and the tier 1 in left. That is a good amount of gold. I mean, that's solid. That's 2K gold you just got for the squad, but I agree. It seems like a weird time to give up that fight entirely. I mean, relics were up for your carries at that time. The fight was pretty even. I don't understand why that was such a bad fight in Weekend's mind.
Somebody's not on the same page on this oBe roster, whether it's Weekend that's making the call to split push on the left side, or if it's Ducky that poked his head around the corner alongside Wowy without the assistance of their remaining teammates. So they need to be able to kind of get their footing back under them, because Hype Unit are looking to win this first game if they can get a pick or two to open the window of the Titan room.
Tier 2 tower still stands for oBe Alliance, but Hype Unit not interested in that. They want the big objective, which is this left side Phoenix. Might be difficult. Merlin, notoriously hard to siege against. Thoth, on the other hand, a great siege breaker. Kind of the long-range artillery that you really need. The trebuchet, if you will help you break those walls. Of course, trebuchet, the superior siege device. Make no mistake about that. Looks like Hype Unit will decide to pick up this tier 2 in this little bit of garbage time, but this is buying time for Wowy's relics to come back up. This is a time where he's very vulnerable.
Also for minions to get a little bit closer to that Phoenix in middle. If they want to do a 4-1 split, a lot of options for Hype Unit. Going on the left side now is Wolves, dropping some pools to zone away from the entrance on the right.
Inbound, goes in, gets the Magi's for Mineral, immediately backs it up. Love that play. The Wolves does take a little bit of poke for it. Crimson returns the favor to the enemy solo laner. Both solo laners starting not at full HP, but one has Fire Giant buff, and that's Wolves. Stunned off perfectly, but Inbound is the one in trouble. Huge Petrify came through from Wowy, and that may have ended it right away. Ducky into the back line, looking for Inbound, and he'll find him. Oboronic able to slow everyone down with that Living Nightmare, but Ducky still survives. What a teleport to that Mjolnir's attunement. And Hype Unit Siege may have just been stuck in its tracks.
Such a sick hammer to be that patient at the very end of it just for the disengage. A clutch weaken evade of that final judgment. Crimson had that one lined up, but look at this.
Oh, what a
Tuck on the
teleport!
back.
Ducky teleports to the ward. Mineral gonna join up with him. Crimson has to use the Aegis, but he gets taunted right back in, and Ducky makes yet another play for Obey Alliance that may have just put him back in this game. Another perfect wall, cuts off Wolves. Ducky putting on a show here in our final set of the day here at Placements. This is gonna be a tier 2 easy for Obey, probably even a Phoenix.
I agree with you there, Aggro. The Phoenix is destined to crumble. Inbound respawning in 5 seconds, and finally, the patience out of Obey Alliance is starting to pay off. We were questioning as to, why they haven't pulled the trigger on the objective when they had that 5-on-4 advantage. It's because they trust themselves to play defense. When you're forcing a Fenrir to jump on you like that, it's not easy to get off the Petrify and the taunts as well to get that burst damage. You don't have to worry about that front line any longer than Ducky to play cleanup.
Just like that, Obey Alliance, a game where they were behind the 8 ball. I mean, Hype Unit had all the momentum in the world. Right back to parity. Hype Unit now even in gold, experience irrelevant. Every carry is level 20. Support's nearly there as well, so you don't have to worry about that part of the graph. Now what's the race to get rid of boots? Start getting those elixirs of speed. Probably going to be slightly favoring Hype Unit, but maybe not. May have invested some money into those potions. No upgraded relics except for Wolves on the right side. Looks like Layers has just upgraded his defensive relics. This next Fire Giant fight gets even harder, Toli, because this is the one where it becomes enhanced. Post 30 minutes, that Fire Giant, an even greater risk for an even greater reward.
And this is where space control matters the most, around these Fire Giant dances. And the way Ducky has been throwing out these Thor walls has been impressive, to say the least. So I'm expecting it to be even better when it matters most, around this EFG.
Frankly, Ducky and Moswal have hard carried this game. It's felt like Minerals found good taunts, but those two, in combination with one another, have been unstoppable in a lot of these engagements. Moswal 3-0-7, despite the lead for Hype Unit, still hasn't taken a death, and he's top of his team in player damage.
We're talking about whether it's the Thoth or the Merlin. Moswal looks so comfortable on these gods. Both Ducky and Moswal are part of 10 of their team's collective 12 kills.
Oh no, Oboronic caught out on this right-hand side. He's gonna try and at least trade out and get weakened at the same time. He will not even make it up into the sky. Weaken, and the rest of the boys find that one pick, make that 2. Layers walks into his own death. An overextension from Oboronic and Hype Unit. Now, what was a lead with them with Fire Giant will now certainly be in favor of Obey.
Yeah, just not at the right place or at the right time. Should have probably used that Living Nightmare a little earlier to at least buy time. You don't have to land on anyone, but you can hover in the same location for a good amount of time for your teammates to play cleanup. And this is where Inbound's relic selections is starting to hurt. Even though he wasn't in position to use them, even if he was, he doesn't have the shell or meditation. He has the horrific emblem to mitigate damage, and then the Frenzy to be able to amplify it in response, but even that would not have saved Oboronic in that instance.
Oboronic just caught out a little bit too far. I mean, you kind of get caught thinking, okay, I've got the global ultimate, I can do whatever I want here. It only takes you to the enemies, and if all the enemies are on top of you, then you're not going anywhere. Oboronic finds it out the hard way. Enhanced Fire Giant on Obey's belt. Mineral did use the Frenzy on clearing that Fire Giant, which strikes me a little bit because no Relic Dagger for him. So that means 90 seconds before that Enhanced Frenzy comes back up. That can be a siege breaker at times. That could be very important.
Even once it comes back up, though, Obey will still have the buff for another 2 minutes. So I'm not too worried with them to have that flexibility with 4 more additional waves before they go for a Phoenix. And without the Relic Dagger, he needs to be tanky, right? Like, that's why he opted for the Magar's Cloak. He's opted for the Spirit's Robe. This is a result of playing around your opponents as opposed to playing for your own side of the battlefield. Inbound on the Fenrir forced the build out of Mineral to avoid the Relic Dagger and go for a different direction.
And ever since Mineral got that Magi's, the game plan has fallen by the wayside. Like, pick up the tanks and kill them. You need something else that can pop these Magi's bubbles with ease, and it requires you to just be too close. I mean, Inbound's got to stun in with that leap. That's risky. Wolves has to be in there with the knockup. That's risky. Crimson has to expend the dash. That's risky. I mean, this is just not a good composition at popping these Magi's bubbles, and I think it's really hurt Hype Unit.
It's very difficult. This is why Fenrir tends to fall off in the late game. So if you don't make anything happen in the early game, it becomes more difficult. Unless your name is Aurora or Neilma, of course, because those two feel like the Fenrir experts.
They understand exactly what they need to do in that spot. Now Hype Unit need to understand how to break this siege for Obey, as they did this. The opposite happened to them on the other side. Inbound taunted in. He's going to pick up one. It's Mineral. Now doesn't have the Magi's this time around, but Crimson's ultimate doesn't really find a home. Still putting out good damage. This Typhoon doesn't do a whole lot. Neither does Ducky's ultimate. A couple of whiffed abilities on each side means that we walk away 5-on-5.
But still with the Fire Giant for another 2 minutes. Frenzy and Shell expended out of Mineral. Has Defender of Olympus to go in.
Perfect execution between Weekend and Mineral, but Oboronic may have just gotten away. No, Mineral does finish him off. Wowy has to use the relics, but Inbound trying to chase him down, and they grab one, make that 2. Moswal fell in the midst of that with relics. Up now, Ducky gets rooted. Crimson with number 12. Mineral found the double kill. He's the only one who's gotten kills here for Obey Alliance. As Hype Unit lose their left side Phoenix, but they get all the damage dealers off the map for Obey.
But they lose Layers and Oboronic at the same time, so the pushing power in response just doesn't become a reality for this console team to be able to answer back with the left side Phoenix. It's too far of a jog to go down that side of the map. By the time they get there, both Ducky, Moswal, and Wowy will all be up to play defense. And that just goes to show there's still signs of life now for Hype Unit. They could still defend their Phoenixes. If they could even hit the ultimates from Crimson, it'll even be smoother next time.
Just I don't know what happened to Moswal in that fight. I mean, he was kind of lost in the scuffle. You have to think it's Crimson's damage that puts him down, because that's the only major burst that should catch him off guard. Maybe Layers was able to grab him.
Yeah.
But as soon as you see the set on you, I mean, you just hit Aegis and you buy yourself some time. Moswal had both relics up.
Yeah, maybe they were on cooldown during the fight. I wasn't paying attention to it. But yeah, dying with both
right away.
relics just feels a little off, unfortunately. But regardless, Obey got what they came for during the Enhanced Fire Giant. A weakened left side Phoenix, the opposite side of the map for the next Fire Giant, makes it easier while you wait for the fire minions to be dealt with by someone from Hype Unit. It should become easier to secure the next objective.
Absolutely, but Wolves does have his teleport up, so he's one who can defend. Oni Fury is the spawn, and that's the best case scenario for Obey Alliance. You want these Oni fire waves pushing on that left-hand side to buy you a lot of time. Oboronic also could start clearing out this left side wave, but does need to be a little bit more careful than someone like Wolves.
Yeah, so with 40 seconds on this Fire Giant spawn, that wave coming behind the purple buff from Obey Alliance is the Oni fire wave. However, Hype Unit seem to be invested into clearing out the next wave, so they shouldn't have to worry about it if they stick around, that is.
Inbound gonna back. He couldn't clear this wave if he wanted to.
True.
He's got a Lono's mask, so all of his damage has been completely negated. If you're Obey, or Hype Unit rather, you give it up this enhanced FG?
Yeah, unfortunately, because if you die outside of your base that far away, you just basically lose the game. So play it safe instead of sorry. But at the same time, while the Fire Giant's going down, you have to take care of that Oni wave right away. You can't deal with it during a fight in the middle Phoenix or the right side instead. So looking like Inbound is thinking about contesting. He is poking his head around the corner just to drop some wards.
Oboronic finally meets up with the Oni wave in mid, but that wave that's pushing on the left side, that is an Oni fire wave that just got pinged. Obey Alliance know they've got tons of map pressure. It looks like Hype Unit is kicking around the idea of contesting. Oboronic, remember, can rejoin this fray very quickly. Taunt on to Inbound. That's how every engagement is started. Takes a lot less damage than he has the last few taunts. Just not enough damage there. Wowy actually took a good chunk. I'm sure he can thank Crimson for that. As Obey start up Fire Giant. Wolves gonna try and get some information. Frenzy popped as FG drops below 25%. Obey Alliance looking for the FG and they grab it, but they use a lot. Typhoon there as well as Weaken has taken quite a bit of damage. Crimson was able to provide quite a bit as Wolves harasses Weaken. Dunk after dunk. Weaken doesn't get away from the World Serpent as Hype Unit grab one, but that might be all they get. Left side Phoenix due to respawn soon. That might be where Hype Unit head.
Obey Alliance too ambitious there. I don't think they should have forced that one at all. They needed to be a little bit more patient. Look for the pokes and the reset. With the Thor, the Athena, that's great space control that you have, but dealing with Crimson's long-range artillery poke damage, Wowy was too whittled down. They all in committed there. They get the objective, sure, but losing Weaken slows down their sieging potential now.
I feel like every fight I'm focusing on one player. You know, I'm looking for where the flow of the fight is going, and then my eyes move and someone's 10% HP, and I have no idea what did that damage, and I have to attribute it to Crimson every time. I mean, this build, when you hit full build Thoth, you just obliterate people with even just your hieroglyphic assault. Who cares about the ultimate?
Sure, yeah, with Shaman's Ring, your first hit of that hieroglyphic assault procs, the 10% damage amplification for the second and the third shot. Inbound is impossible to target now with the completion of his Lono's mask as well. He is super tanky, so even if you do successfully taunt, Thor stun him, that minus 25% damage taken is non-factor for Wowy's damage in Moswal.
He's maxed on crowd control reduction as well, which I think is an underrepresented stat. I mean, you've got Spirit Robe, Oni Hunters, Reinforced Greaves, and Lono's Mask. These Athena taunts are lasting for a fraction of what they normally would. And that messes up this whole combo, which is the Athena taunt into Petrify that stuns you for an eternity. That eternity doesn't last very long with this much CCR in the build for Inbound. So Obey Alliance get Enhanced Fire Giant, lose Weaken in the process. Hype Unit immediately take that opportunity to get up their left side Phoenix and have reset the course of the game. But Fire Giant still on 4 members here for over a minute.
But honestly, the way Hype Unit defended the last time, I'm not worried about it for them, because this time the respawn timers are so long that if Obey overcommit and fall victim again, this could be the turnaround play for Hype Unit to get some Phoenixes for their sides.
Now, no real boots left on the other side for Obey Alliance. Ducky's picked up a Heartseeker, Brawler's Beatstick for Weaken alongside the Bloodforge now, a Mantle of Discord for Moswal. You don't have a whole lot of boots. On the other side, though, for Hype Unit, only Wolves has gotten a chance to get rid of his. So there is an item lead right now for Obey Alliance that should be pretty tangible. Crimson doing the exact same thing he did last Siege, which is stick around in mid. Pretty hard to beat this Thoth clear, but this does also take him away from where he wants to be, which is poking the opposition.
Yeah, but Obey don't really seem to all-in commit the same way that Hype Unit have been throughout the course of the game. Only Weaken on his side of the team has the blink, so Mineral's dash is very telegraphed. You hear it, you see it charging up as well. Wolves with a Mad Guy's Cloak, so you know he should be fine from that engage, as he is trying to get that Mad Guy's Cloak off as Mineral.
Taunton Inbound, not a whole lot of damage. Moswal does put a small dent in what Wolves has to offer as Ducky continues to hover in mid. Layers there to try and check him. But of course, Layers does not have the ability to roam nearly as well as Ducky does. Taunt on him Inbound once again, but this time Inbound's gonna go in, finds a couple with that stun. The Final Judgment doesn't find a huge home there for Crimson. Also expends the dash. That is good news if you're an Obey Alliance fan. That Final Judgment at this point in the game can change everything. Inbound, taunted in once again. Typhoon doesn't find a whole lot as Ducky will find Oboronic at the back line, but immediately starts to back it up. Layers gonna go into the teeth of the enemy team, and he is crushing Obey Alliance. Wolves takes down Wowy, and Obey's on the run. Wolves continues to take down Moswal. Layers grabs him. Mineral Mantle proc already down. He's gonna get chased down by these slows. Layers slays Obey Alliance on another good defense.
Oh, good juke from the skewer slow, but it's just not going to be enough. Good stun from Inbound. 3 dead. A full minute before Moswal comes up. 70 seconds for Mineral. They lose their Phoenix on the left, but I think Hype Unit come out on top with a win here potentially, but they don't have Crimson to siege with them for some reason.
Now, Wolves is on the way, but Crimson really late getting out of base. I mean, you've got to look for Phoenix here, right?
You have to.
Layers is half HP, Inbound half HP. They don't have Fire Giant, so they're not regenning. These are the health bars they're going with.
30 seconds for Moswal, 20 for Wowy, 40 for Mineral. This Phoenix needs to be defended. Ducky's wall buys them a couple of seconds. Weekend does have Blink.
He's ready to go. Finds Veronica on that back line, but Inbound's able to turn around and peel him away. Left side Phoenix still pretty healthy, but Ducky is not. Down to half HP for him. Final Judgment being charged, and it nearly one-shots Weekend. In fact, he will! Crimson puts him down, but Wowy's on the respawn right now. Moswal coming up as well, and Ducky comes back to base. So Bay Alliance lose their left side Phoenix, but they're still alive in the game.
A huge pick coming out of Crimson to find Waken, chipping him low enough for only one hit of that hieroglyphic assault. And now they have enough gold to get their swiftness elixir potions available and consume it. Working on a cloak is Inbound, probably Mantle of Discord if I were to guess, as Layers picks up the Anchile, so gonna have a way to silence out the magical damage from Moswal once the next dive attempt occurs. And we were talking about the all-in commit from Hype Unit needing to succeed in the early game.
Yeah.
Wasn't too fruitful then, but better late than never for Hype Unit during that last defense.
I suppose so, man. Layers is just a machine, dude. This guy is an absolute animal. Inbound gonna go aggressive right now, but he's pretty alone. Scratch that. Here comes Oboronic and Wolves. Dive is on. The Crimson's pretty far away from this position. Mineral rejoins Wowy. Big knockup coming from Wolves. Good wall from Ducky, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Inbound goes down. Final Judgment finishes off Wowy. But not before he gets inbound. Oboronic finds Ducky. Moswal takes down Layers. It's 2 for 2 in the midst of all of this. I don't know how Weekend ends up surviving, man. He was on a sliver of HP. Hype Unit, not a fear in the world, man. That engage was 20 seconds out from working.
Someone just hit Hype Unit with the defibrillator to bring them back to life, because they took that fight without Crimson right away. He was still rotating from the fountain, and that was confidence just spewing out of Hype Unit from their last successful defense, their siege attempt on the Phoenix as well. To be able to get this shows Hype Unit have the ability to close this out.
30 seconds on each side. Now remember, Hype Unit's Phoenix is coming up first. That is relevant because these fire waves have stalled out on this left-hand side. Neither team really worried about pushing them at this point, especially with Enhanced Fire Giant up. Oboronic has been able to get a little bit of lifesteal now, sold his boots for the Aussie. A little bit of pen for him. Poor Wowy this game, man. I mean, he has been under siege in this game. Moswal has been free casting for the most part. He's made the most of it. Getting close to Thoth damage numbers 45, 50 minutes in is pretty preposterous. Moswal's had a good game, but Wowy's been crushed.
If I'm Wowy at this point, I'm selling off maybe my Transcendence for a physical defense item, like Mantle of Discord, Spirit's Robe, Magnus Cloak, something to cleanse CC or at least mitigate the damage, because the die potential is so real. And if I'm constantly running away because I'm getting dove, well, I'm not benefiting from the physical power anyway from this item. I'm not benefiting from the CDR if I'm not throwing out my abilities.
That's a good point. I mean, I feel like Mantle's definitely the call. Call for Hype Unit is the Fire Giant. Mineral gonna rejoin quickly as they realize they're a little bit out of position. Ducky gets picked up and has the beads ready to go. Inbound down to about 2/3 HP. He's gonna disengage. He feels pretty happy with where they are, but Wolves may have to use the ultimate. He does. Final Judgment doesn't find a home again for Crimson. That one not particularly good. Ducky gonna disengage as well. A lot of ultimates used on both sides. Warning shots fired across the bow. But beads being down for Ducky is relevant.
And this is where Hype Unit now have control of the fire minions on the left side. Their Phoenix has respawned. Obey still need to buy some time and defend that wave unless they're gonna lose their left side Phoenix. Yet again, that will be at the weakened state.
No shell for Mineral, but he does have the Frenzy. Crimson about halfway back on that ultimate. Bobby jukes around, huge taunt coming from Mineral. Everyone in that corridor taunted in, but it's not enough damage because Layers has gotten into the backline and he's ripping apart a Bay Alliance. 2 for him. Moswal somehow finds 1, but 3 members of a Bay Alliance dead, and it's only Ducky and Moswal still up.
Oh, the Final Judgment just passes by Moswal's shoulder on the right side. I think they're going to chase him down till the end of the world, and Gonna try to disengage. Layers needs to find a skewer, but he cancels the back, looking for the 1v1.
Moswal had one under control. He might have two under control. Nearly killed Crimson until Layers finally puts him down. Now 4 dead on the other side. Crimson not backing is suspect to me, man. I mean, they've got to try and use this timer, I suppose.
This is do or die.
One double tap from Ducky kills him. He's got no relics.
He needs to play so far back that he avoids everything from Ducky, but how are you going to avoid the Anvil of Dawn that is available?
Ducky right now might just charge it.
Oh, yeah,
he will. They've got to be able to see this one coming. Crimson using the dash, and Ducky can't find it. Wall off the mark, and now Ducky has been CC'd, but not killed quite yet. Layers skewer cooldown should be coming up soon. Misses the slow. Ducky's still going to be able to get away. He survives.
They're not going for the end, though, Aggro. They're actually resetting Living Nightmare to confirm the kill on Ducky,
Yeah,
and
they
now
can.
going for the fire.
They can't. I mean, Wowy, Mineral, and Weaken all up. Ducky does his job. He delays as another Phoenix goes down. It's that left side one once more. Straight to fire go Oboronic and Layers. This is not guaranteed, totally. This is warded by Obey Alliance. They know Layers taking an awful lot of damage, and this is awfully risky. 7,000 health or so for that ultimate. Weaken blinks in to keep it leashed. He wants to use it, but here comes Wolves. He was ready for it this whole time. And losing Blink there for Weaken feels awfully relevant to me.
No hesitation from Weaken. Seeing that blink just goes to show you how ready he is to not only make a call, but execute on that call, waiting for his teammates to follow up with it. Not the correct call at the end of the day, but trying to go for it, trying to get some sort of advantage because they don't have the advantage any longer with their exposed left side lane, no longer having the Phoenix there.
Inbound playing zone to make sure that Mineral doesn't come in. This Fire Giant will go down for Hype. 3k power pot in the inventory for Layers, as if he hasn't done enough damage these last few team fights, man. I mean, Set's supposed to be the mid-game god, Tully. He's supposed to rotate out of solo and kill you because he got a level lead. Full damage Set is not a thing that we see very often.
It's like hybrid. You got Void Shield, Shifters, and the Oncule. It's like
Sure.
half damage.
It's plenty of damage, I know that much. He has destroyed Wowy these last few team fights. I mean, Wowy, if he's not getting killed by Crimson's damage from a distance, he's getting killed by Layers up close.
He's getting chipped down by Crimson for sure. These only 2 shots is what it takes from the Hieroglyphic Assault to get Wowy to basically have health, and then Layers all in commits. And if it's not Layers committing, it's Wolves with the World Serpent. Hard to really get away from that dive comp. Now picking up Gem of Isolation for the Jormungandr. I absolutely love this utility item. You're throwing so many different pools there, whether you're sieging or defending your own Phoenix. It's hard to navigate through all that slowing minefields.
And it makes it really hard to get away from that World Serpent if you get hit by that first part of it. No sprint on the other side for Obey Alliance. Only one blink has definitely stood out to me. It's allowed Crimson to stay in the back and do whatever he wants in these team fights. I mean, normally you see all these blinks, but only one in the entire game. I think this is the first time I've seen one blink in an SPL level match in a long, long time. And make no bones about it, I know this is the console team on the other side. This is an SPL level match, man. Hype Unit has played very, very well so far.
The longest game of the placement match so far between these two teams, because it's loser goes home. Obey Alliance, yes, they don't have more than the one blink, but I don't hate it because Mineral picking up the shell and the frenzy allowed for a lot of good plays, both defensively keeping his backline alive and then melting some objectives.
Layers gonna push up mid lane. Fire Wave coming down the left. Ducky's hovering. He'll be his job to cover mid in case Layers decides he wants to go in there. Now this is the first time we've seen Hype Unit try this full 5-on-5 siege in a long time. They did it 30 minutes ago or so on that left side, and it did not go particularly well. Moswal was able to do quite a bit of damage on the defense. I mean, no ward coverage there on that wall. This is a spot where Crimson should be able to put out a lot of damage onto Moswal, but he is very patient with his cooldowns. Looks like they're waiting for that left side to respawn.
That's what they were waiting for. I thought for a moment that Layers was going to grab the red buff, but he already has his own speed. Inbound, going to jump in, gets the beats out of Wowy.
He's gone for Wowy right away. Wolves straight into that back line. Crimson still has the ultimate, hasn't fired that off yet, but Wolves will do that for his. They're gonna try and zone Wowy away. Still not a lot of damage on this Phoenix quite yet. Hype Unit looking awfully gun shy. so far on this Phoenix. Ducky's all the way on the left. He's defending that Phoenix that just respawned, so now's the time. Inbound taunted, takes a lot of damage, and Wowy immediately erased. Layers gets him once again. Final Judgment doesn't find anybody, but Hype Unit does find that right side Phoenix. Ducky managed to keep the left side alive, and it might be Hype Unit's next order of business to put that down right away.
But they have no ultimates here, aggro, whereas Mineral and Ducky still do. Inbound taunted into a lot of damage, and successfully jumps away. Mineral gets answered with a little bit of poke for himself, but it's hard to really go in when you're this low. The Enhanced Fire Giant should be able to sustain them for a little bit longer. Only 30 seconds on the buff.
Boronic's still plenty healthy though. Both relics up for Inbound, or for Boronic and
missed the
for
taunt.
Crimson. Taunt misses, and Crimson is not. Plenty of damage. Layers once again with another kill. He gets number 26 in total for Hype Unit. Now 2 members down for a long time for Obey Alliance. Mid Phoenix does fall as the left side's got a massive fire wave coming in. I don't know that Ducky can clear this. Moswal's got to back it up. Weaken finds Inbound, but that's just the support. Hype Unit might be going for the end right here. Only 3 people to defend, but Wowy's up in 20. Hype Unit, call it off.
This is fine, honestly. If I'm Hype Unit, all 3 Phoenixes down. Wolves caught on the fortunate side of the wall for himself. If he was just a little bit more accurate, Ducky would have found that pick onto Wolves that had no World Serpent available, but still, with an exposed Titan at its most vulnerable form, Obey Alliance are so close to losing this game to a console team.
Remember, winner goes home. This is the loser side of the bracket. Obey Alliance dropped to Simplicity 2-0 yesterday. Hype Unit losing 2-1 to Out Cold Gaming. So both these teams meeting up here, and you know Hype Unit upset with themselves after that loss against Out Cold.
That game 3 up against Out Cold Gaming was so close. I always want to just look at that replay at the very end to really dissect of what the correct call was, whether defending the Titan with Boronic on the Merlin was the accurate play as opposed to going for the end with every 4 member remaining. Either way, they're still here. They're still up against Obey Alliance, and they're in a winning position.
Looking like we might surpass the hour mark here in game number 1. Obey Alliance certainly hoping for it. That means they can hold on a little bit longer. They're the ones on the back foot, but this game is on the razor's edge. One team fight that goes awry would result in Hype Unit snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Another Enhanced Fire Giant goes down. That's 6 Fire Giants in total in this game that have gone down, 4 in favor of Hype Unit. And this one feels like the most important yet. All 3 Phoenixes down on the other side. If you're Obey Alliance, you have to take a fight outside of your Titan room at this point?
I mean, it's not that low. It's not like you have to be worried about somebody backdooring the Titan. I think they could still defend or maybe at least force Mad Guy's cloaks being popped like that. Great play out of Mineral. Little advantages like that could stack up. But yeah, if I'm Obey, I'm not fighting outside of my Titan room. I'm looking for clear like this in the mid lane when it's defenseless. No aggression out of Obey, or rather out of Hype Unit to push that one in.
Thought they might be playing the trap right there, knowing Wolves has no beads. You were talking about Wowy going defense. I thought that was a good idea, but he obviously is of a different mindset. He goes pure damage, sold his boots for an Odysseus bow. I mean,
I don't like it.
He's bottomed the player damage charts among all carries so far, and it's been noticeable. Inbound whips on that jump in. Ragnarok gets the B, or gets something. It was the Magi's from Weekend. Where did Ducky go? Layers doesn't let him leave the ground. He puts him back in. 27 now for Hype Unit, and they've got a 5-on-4 for 80. Count them, 80 seconds. I don't think they're messing around any longer, Toli. Wolves prepping on that Fire Giant to go in. Look at these waves, left and right. Obey Alliance's base completely surrounded. Weekend goes in, good beads from Crimson as he's getting ready to light it up. Titan down to 50%. Wowy does take down Inbound, but it's too late. Hype Unit takes game number 1 over Obey.
They still need to find the second one here, aggro. It was a long one, but at the end of the day, the long-range artillery shots from Crimson's Thoth was the key to the success at a Hype Unit.
Completely agree, man. Crimson has a great game, but how about Layers? I mean, this guy bursts onto the scene at MSI, has a great showing there, impresses a lot of the SPL pros, impresses a lot of the public, and then even in some losing efforts earlier this week, has insane games. He has another one today on the set.
I mean, honestly, ever since Season 3, whether it's Chaotic Purpose, Layers of Life, now Layers of Death, he's always been making plays on the sticks and on the keyboard as well. So honestly, I like the plays out of him on the set. He was a little quiet in the early game, but the dive potential onto Wowy, he never changed it. That just goes to show how active you need to be and in the state of the moment. If you're not dealing the damage, go defense instead.
Unbelievable game one, nearly an hour long, but Hype Unit one game away from eliminating an SPL team out of placement week and getting ready for the World Championship. If you're not having fun, man, I don't know what to tell you. Stay tuned. Game 2 coming up soon.
LayersSlays! I've been screaming it all the way through the hallway. Fantastic stuff here as the console team, Hype Unit, go ahead and take this one. Brush your shoulders off as you relax and lean back because Obey has to go back to the drawing board.
What a crazy game that was. So well played by both teams as well. And like for a long time I thought Obey had it because I felt like this Fenrir doesn't have any impact anymore. But then Fenrir got Lonos and he became too tanky to like they couldn't take him down in the Athena taunts anymore, and I feel like that was a big turning point.
That was huge. We saw Bobby Inbound repeatedly go in, get in trouble, and Wolves actually very interesting because Wolves, a little bit of history for those that haven't watched the console league. Wolves was the first best player in his league, and he continued to kind of own that. And then as the years went by, other players kind of caught up to him. Not that he slouched, but he just wasn't the dominant force. We saw him at Midseason Invitational, and he was largely kind of quiet around a high-performing team. The mid-game was brought to you by fantastic Jormungandr play. Inbound had some great moments, had some bad moments, but altogether, the team brings it back towards the mid and late game, and then Layers just goes off.
Yeah, it's just like, I feel like everyone plays, you can talk about every single play. You have the Crimson on this Thoth as well, just so much damage. And then on the other side, you have Moswal on the Merlin on Obey, also dealing so much damage. So like, I feel like everyone in this game had their moments. Like, Ducky as well, for example, in the early game on the Thor, is popping off, saving the game at one point with a teleport, and like, just everyone had their individual moments in this game, or just played so well.
I think you nailed what happened here. Hype Unit continued to play, and everybody kind of had their moment, and then when all 5 players had their moment together, they wind up finding the couple of sequences to win the game. Ducky seemed to be the person on Obey, Moswal as well, but Ducky was so important for this Obey team. It seemed like it was just him and Moswal at times.
What did that Thor die to? Did it die to Crusher proc or something? Because it was already up in there. I don't know. It's such a close game, man. So many small things.
Back and forth. Weekend and the boys trying to figure out what went wrong, scratching the head. I mean, honestly, this isn't one that you point to the draft because, again, Obey played very, very well. This game was an hour long. You know, talking to the Hype guys coach as they passed by, Hype Unit has been scrimming some of the pro league teams, Obey one of them, and he says, you know, all of our scrims have been an hour long. Both of these teams continue to go neck and neck, so this wasn't a surprise to Hype Unit to expect this type of battle.
Yeah, I mean, if you say so, that's just crazy. What a game. I really hope we get another one like this as well.
Same.
Maybe if Obey wins this, we can get free of these games. That would be perfect.
I'm in. I'm absolutely here for it. Picks and bans for game number 2 without any further waiting. Obey Alliance, the first selection here in the first bans, of course. I don't expect to see the Fenrir ban, but Fenrir was important for the hype win.
I think Fenrir might get banned in the second ban phase.
That's
maybe even the first, honestly, because as I said, before he got Lonos, didn't do that much, but as soon as he got Lonos, I think it was so annoying for especially Wowy to deal with, because he would jump on Wowy, force his beats, brutalize him. He has Lonos, he's pretty much immortal at that point, so like, it made it so hard for Wowy, or maybe Wowy just looked to play another hunter that can deal with the Fenrir better.
Wowy certainly had Wowy had some of the lowest damage amongst carries in this game, and Wowy, traditionally a standout performer, that was absolutely because of the way hype was targeting him out and making sure he couldn't really do what he wanted to do here. Bans all in, the set will be taken away. We won't see Layers play that one again. First selection for Obey, Thor, and I got to agree, Ducky on the Thor was one of the highlights of this team.
Yeah, it was, but I think maybe this game we'll see Weekend on 4 as well. Like, Weekend had performed really well on 4 whenever he got to play it in SPL as well. I expect Hype Unit to get the Jormungandr here as well, though. Did so much work in the last game.
Well, Thor, first selection. Hype Unit trying to respond. No set, so Layers will have to figure out a new character to go to.
Yeah, kind of smart as well, because you see Layer, he's done, as I said before this game as well, done so well on the set jungle, and when he hasn't played set, he's mostly gone to the 4, and now Obey has that as well, so we'll have to see now what he goes to when these two gods are gone.
Hercules available this time around. That'll be selected most likely for our support player. We'll see if Inbound does that again, but the Jormungandr locked in, and that's undoubtedly for Wolves.
Yeah, and the Hercules is undoubtedly for Inbound as well. Yeah, he likes this early game support, so like you can tell. Played really well on the Fenrir as well. Haven't seen him on the Herc yet. I think Herc has been banned against him every single game so far.
Yes.
I think this is the first game he even gets a chance to play it. So let's see if it lives up to all the bans he's been receiving.
I mean, no disrespect intended with this. I call Inbound kind of a Roar light. Very similar play styles. Very similar boisterous attitudes as well. Bobby, the vocal leader for this Hype Unit team for sure. Erlang, Shen, but more importantly, the Thoth taken away from Crimson.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as I said, it was him and Moswal last game. Both of them dealt so much damage. But I think they're just going to go with Merlin now instead. And it's just going to be changed roles. They're probably going to do just as much damage on the Merlin as they did on the Thoth. So
we'll see if that's going to be Crimson. Oboronic has a Merlin as well in his arsenal. Hype Unit subscribing to the LG kind of approach where Oboronic and Crimson can kind of switch around what they do. Yeah. Although, similar to LG, they've solidified more in general where those players go. Ducky, all smiles despite the loss.
Just lost a 1 hour game. Doesn't seem to bother him at all.
Well, Ducky, hilariously enough, one of the more positive folks out there. Everybody kind of loves him on social media for sure. And for good reason. But also, Ducky was the highlight of Obey for me. I really liked watching him play there, and I think he brought Obey. There were a couple times where Hype Unit might have been able to finish that game off earlier if it wasn't for Ducky.
Yeah, I think Ducky and Moswal was the two big standout players from Obey that game for sure. Moswal, you didn't see that much from him, but you look at the damage numbers, just pumping so much damage that whole game. And it's hard as well, because mentioned the Fenrir with the Lone was so hard to take down. Like, Merlin usually really good at killing tanks, even late game. But the Lonos just makes you so much more. Like, he's at the defense cap to Fenrir, and he all has the Lonos mask on top of that. Like, it's so hard to kill.
Uh-oh. There it is, Hoodie Oboronic coming out one more time. That's a big deal. You don't understand.
It worked out last game, so.
That's what I'm saying. We'll see if it comes to fruition here. We got the King Arthur, and we got the Chernobog band out here by Hype Unit. Obey Alliance take away the Susano. They're giving a lot of thought to the Cabrakan ban, and that, I gotta say, that's the right ban. Layers' Cabrakan has been dirty. Cabrakan does very well against Erlang, Shen, and the Thoth guy. True. And so by banning that, I think that's, very rarely do we say correct choice in a pick and ban, but I think that's very correct. And Jing Wei, the safe hunter.
Go for a safe hunter. I mean, to be fair, he played a safe hunter last game in the Chernobog as well.
Yep.
Kinda similar to Jing Wei, where he even went Breastplate of Valor to like make sure he wouldn't get one shot by the Susano jungle, which was really smart. I think that item pickup made it super hard for Weekend to, because I feel like Chernobog was the main target he wanted to go for that game, but like it makes it so hard when he has that extra tankiness.
Chronos would be a great pick here, I feel.
Yeah, like I feel like these magical ADCs are still so strong.
Yep.
This game seems to be going to late game as well, right? And that's where Chronos, his passive kicking in, getting so much extra power. Yeah, just a great pick, I think.
Yeah, hype unit and obey, as we said. Games go long, scrims go long. The Bastet comes out. Bastet, Thor, and Erlang, Shen, Chronos, Thoth. This is a squishy composition for obey. And hype unit thinking about the Ravana.
Don't
Take
love
pleasure
the
in the crushing of
Bastet,
one's
actually.
enemies.
Not a lot of CC on this team.
Yeah.
Now you have Erlang and Thor, obviously, but then Bastet, no CC at all. They have good split damage though, with like 3 Fizz and 2 Medical, so that's fine. Not sure about the Bastet. Maybe she can shut down the Merlin, but Jing usually really safe against the Bastet, right? She can use ult whenever she's in trouble. Then maybe she can dive the Merlin, but I feel like Merlin as well, so much AoE damage, and with his stand switch of his ultimate, he can deal with the cats and all that really good as well. So
Right.
not sure about the Bastet. I feel like that's a really risky pick, but it could also work out.
Yeah, the Bastet is... I got a lot of question marks around that Bastet for sure. As much as I liked the Chronos, I might dislike this Bastet. And I'm not a Bastet hater. I actually really like watching this character come out. I think she does a lot of things right, but like most things in Smite, it's situation specific.
Yeah.
We'll see. At the end of the day, she's pure damage. And if you get ahead, you can certainly start to run away with the shoulders of it all. So we'll just have to wait and see with the Bastet.
Yeah, a lot of question marks about that pick for sure. Ravana on the other hand, on the hype unit, so good against Thoth and Chronos, can avoid so much damage from both of these gods, right, with his overhand kick on his 2. Like the Chronos stun, he's never gonna get stunned. Same with the Thoth, if he evades and punish, super easy to avoid that 1-2. So this Ravana pick, I have to say I like hype unit's draft better.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out well. Of course, we've got Inbound on his Hercules, going to be looking for that aggressive play, could be looking for the invades. The Ravana's going to allow that early game prowess as well. And again, something that Layers plays well. Enabling the junglers, always a good strat.
Yeah, for sure. Only worried about Merlin though, because they don't have a lot of peel on that. They have Hercules, Jormungandr, Ravana. All of these 3 probably gonna want to. Hercules can peel, but I have a feeling he's gonna be wanted to dive the backline, right? So Merlin's gonna be on his own a lot, and being alone against them 4 Bastet and Erlang, it's kind of hard to make it out sometimes.
It is pretty tough. We'll have to see how safely our players play that way. Jormungandr, though, for Wolves, worked out game number 1.
Yep.
Should continue to do so. I'm looking at the Erlang Shen. Who's playing this one?
I think that's a mineral pick, right? He's been loving the Erlang support. He's been played it a lot, and I don't think anyone else is playing Bastet. I mean, it could be 4 support and Bastet solo or something like that, but I doubt it.
We'll take a look. Hype unit up 1 game to none. We'll talk to the casters.
Thank you, Tom and Zeros, Aggro, and Anatoly joining you once again for game number 2. I like the idea of Obey's draft here, Toly. I mean, you put Ducky back on the Thor. He made a great impact early on. I've got no problem with that. You give Moswal the Thoth to take it away from Crimson. You give Wowy something safer in the Chronos. I think that Obey did a good job in the draft.
Even weaken on the Bastet has a good merit if you're trying to dive by Oboronic and still get out at the same time. Very uncharacteristic for him to pick that. Although, to be fair, if anyone's going to pick a non-traditional jungler, it's either weaken or scream at the end of the day, both favoring the Bastet from time to time. But Layers, it's important for him to be aggressive and maybe shut down weaken before he gets a lot of physical power from items.
Also a blink this time for Mineral, the ability to close that gap and be a nuisance for that back line. Is I saw that kind of come into play, I think, in that last game. The lack of backline dive for Obey Alliance. Inbound, doing Hercules things. Trades out with Mineral. Erlang Shen, one of the few gods that can make it work, as Layers lays a trap for Weaken. Weaken may not have taken the pounce, now forced to, because he's just going to lose that auto trade too hard. Mineral is now in trouble.
He's dead.
I think the Piranha Onslaught might just do it. No, Inbound actually gives up the chase. He's so concerned about this speed buff, but instead actually will turn towards the red. Mineral might try and steal this with the pin, but it is secured by Hype Unit.
Good timing there from Inbound and Layers to coordinate both of those abilities. I thought for sure after the driving strike and the Prod Onslaught that there was no world Mineral gets out of that one, but like you mentioned before, switching targets, securing the red buff is a good way to get a slight edge early without overextending. But now Wowy trying to get Layers.
Body blocks really solid. First blood goes the way of Obey Alliance, and Layers bites off a little bit too much. Has to go back to base. Even with his boots too, just ends up getting killed because of that rotation in from Wowy.
Yeah, I thought that Inbound was going to assist Layers there, or maybe even Crimson to get off of the wave the same way that Wowy got off of the wave, but just on slightly different pages from Layers and the rest of his teammates there. Giving a first blood for only red buff, not worth at the end of the day.
No, especially when you get Mineral the first blood, set him up for a good early game, and Wowy on this Chronos. Crimson on a very different pick this time around. I mean, Jing, a very different style, and he's one of the premier Thoth players on the console. Inbound now in a little bit of trouble. Good CC chain in, patience. Weaken here as well. Pin is solid. Obey Alliance. Get off to a 2-0 start, and Weaken lets them know.
I mean, this early on to taunt is not warranted, I feel, but, you know, to each their own. Layers now with a gank of his own on the solo lane side.
This should result in a kill. Ducky's hammer already down, well timed by Layers. When this Thor solo was popping up everywhere, I kept thinking, man, I mean, he has got a hammer to clear the wave. You got to be able to punish it.
Oh, yeah.
And Layers showing it off there.
That's the one disadvantage. Yes, he does a lot of damage with that hammer, but without an escape, it's so easy to get ganked when you least expect it. Around the 215 mark is when he died, and normally by that point, a lot of junglers are going for their own speed buff at the respawn, but a good recognition there.
Good pre-beads from Weaken on that Blink Earthbreaker from Inbound. We said that we liked Moswal on the Merlin last game, and Obey looks good. It's because Moswal either has Merlin, which he had, and looks very good on, or Thoth. This time he takes a Thoth, and taking it away from Crimson felt like a huge deal after his performance in Game 1.
I think that's the big key, though, is taking it away from Crimson, because it felt like Wowy and Weaken was getting chipped down in so many different team fights in the late game that made it impossible for them to siege. So now the fact that they have it for themselves, they should be relatively clean to look for some of these sieges if they are in a winning position.
Buff secured by Layers and Wolves. Wall is pretty solid there from Ducky once again, and he returns a bit of damage, but won't commit to it with Inbound lurking. Ducky already behind in comparison to what he was in game number 1, where he was able to make an impact towards the mid lane very, very early on. Basically, as soon as he hit level 5, we saw Ducky shading over towards mid, and despite the 2 early kills for Obey Alliance, including the first blood, it's Hype Unit who are ahead.
They do have 2 Totem of Q, so that's 250 gold as well that they have to their name. And with that advantage in the solo lane also goes to show the stacking department. 13 stacks on that Warrior's Blessing for Wolves, only 8 for the side of Ducky. So 15 protection still very important, especially when you're dealing with damage over time from the Jormungandr basics.
Little pools as well will dot you up. Warrior's Blessing getting the ball, very important in that matchup. Are you surprised that Hype Unit didn't take the Thoth? I really thought that once Obey gave them the option in that picks and bans with those first 2 selections, they went Hercules and Jorm.
Yep.
I'm surprised, man, that they didn't take the Thoth over one of those.
Yeah, I think that this was them wanting to be super aggressive on the support. Mineral plays more Erlang than I've ever seen him play Hercules, so I don't think there was any risk of that getting stripped away. I think that could have easily been a Thoth and a Jormungandr instead of the Hercules, and then waiting down the road for their support pick.
He definitely does play way more Erlang. Played a little bit of Hercules, dabbled in it, so to speak, but certainly not a premier pick for him.
It's something he started with, is the Erlang in his SPL debut, actually, for Obey Alliance.
Yeah, this style has been, it's either this or the Geb. Those are like the picks that Mineral always goes to. When your back's against the wall, when you're facing elimination, feels like that's what you want to do, is go towards your comfort selections. Hype Unit is just set up shop on this right-hand side, looking at exactly what Obey's jungle is going to do. Mineral in a weird spot, got a 72 transformations interrupted, pulled back in by Inbound, and Veronic gets the second kill for Hype Unit. Now Ducky has gone up, Weaken's cats are down, and Layers is the target. Final Judgment right on time. Easy execution kill for Obey Alliance. They trade their support for the enemy jungler.
Mr. Crush was available that entire time, not respecting that wombo combo of the Thor Thoth. Layers getting the worst end of this trade at the end of the day. If I'm Mineral, I'm feeling very happy from Falls.
Inbound has already used the hammer, or the driving strike, is good heal coming from Ducky, or Wolves rather. I got my team's a little bit mixed up for a second there. Ends up getting Inbound out of danger. Wolves is in an awkward spot, but he's got his ultimate. And he's level 7, so he's willing to box a little bit. He might be out of mana here, though, and I don't think he's got enough to use that ultimate, but boy, is he tanky. Is Jade Emperor's a good item, by the way?
It's pretty good, minus 30 power on 3 physical gods, so that's technically 90 physical protection this early on. He does get enough mana with that Warrior's Blessing. If he wanted to recommit, the Weaken was rather low, but I think that Inbound and Layers was too far away to assist matters.
That is just crazy, man. I mean, he's in the dazed state, he's taking more damage, he's slowed, and the health bar just barely moves the entire time. Jade Emperor's a solid item, and fighting around this side of the map when this is such a physical heavy composition in this rotation core for Obey, and by that I mean the jungler and the support. Pretty good choice to go for that Jade Emperor's right away. Of course, Moswal and Wowy will demand respect with their massive damage later on in the game.
And that's why we're seeing so much early pressure on that right side. Respecting the threat in the late game, and then taking advantage of your own power spikes.
Crimson in trouble. Knocks down to 15%. Wowy with control of this lane for the moment, but Crimson with the slight level advantage, it feels like, is able to finish off his Devourer's Gauntlets, and once he starts stacking these up, imagine he'll trade a little bit more favorably in that lane.
And this wasn't Wowy struggling in the laning phase in game number 1. It's when team fights rolled around the corner that he was staggering a little bit. Wolves should survive this one. Not going to commit his Ducky and Mineral. But Wowy should be able to control this matchup for the most part, especially once he gets Pythax piece. He already has 10% CDR with the Shoes of Focus, 20% now completed with that Pythax piece. Should win the 1v1 even harder.
Inbound looking, Layers blinks in, puts good damage on a Ducky, and Wolves gonna use that ultimate. Ducky is the focus, Mystic Rush not enough, and Wolves not gonna commit. He actually lets that kill go. Good Boulder, puts out good damage, but not as good as he's getting. Moswal on the receiving end, and it's gonna be an easy kill for him. Weaken picks up Wolves, but Ducky goes in and trades out. It should have been a 2-for-1 in Obey's favor, but Ducky's overcommit. Evens it up.
Risky business there. Layers narrowly surviving. Weaken not giving this one up. We'll try to go on to Oboronic. Avoids the root. Should survive this one.
Puts out a little bit of damage on the back end as well. Good jukes coming from Oboronic. Gonna try and seal away the blue buff at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not in love with that hero play at all from Ducky. He already took 1 death earlier on, so he's trying to play catch up. And at that point,
right,
you have to get the guaranteed farm or the guaranteed kills and the escapes. Even if he trades out 1-for-1, still not favorable.
Inbound again on the receiving end, Mineral level 7, and you can feel it, but a great pluck back in, sets up Layers and Oboronic. Inbound not gonna die to that dot, and Wolves with boots this time around is gonna make this chase a lot better. Ducky puts himself in between Weaken and Wolves physically.
Can't be in real life, right?
No, definitely, definitely
Ducky can't
not.
body block anybody.
No, he's not body blocking anything in IRL, but when he's playing the big beefy solo laners, he's got under wraps.
I got a mental image for you.
Oh boy, here we go.
One-on-one playing basketball against PBM, boxing him out.
Oh, poor Ducky, dude. He'd get eaten alive. I've seen Mike in the post, man. My dude, he's ready to go. You know, Mike is ready.
Yeah, I tried to make sure he wasn't getting to the rim.
Yeah,
could not stop the beast.
No, Mike goes hard in the paint for sure. And Ducky, God bless him, good player. Don't think he's winning that matchup for sure. Wolves is just imposing his will on this right side of the map. This early Jade Emperors has left him free to do whatever he wants. He's not taking a whole lot of damage for it. Again, the whole squad rotates in. Moswal has backed and finished his full 2 more. He's much stronger than he was last time, but he's decided to stay in mid lane, at least for the time being. Wolves plays it safe rather than sorry, and decides to use that ultimate to get out. But here comes Moswal out of that mid lane, looking like he might be looking for Oboronic on that rotation back.
No teleport for Wolves. That is not the healthiest of sorts. Layers gonna get focused out. Mr. Crush available though.
Still has it. He'll use it. Ult for ult, but one person used the blink. That was Mineral. Both sides probably feeling like they're okay with that trade. Weaken especially because he didn't expend a whole lot, and he got to steal away back harpies.
And the blue buff on top of it, unless Wolves can somehow secure it. It looks like Mineral does pick it up very safely though, so I think Obey come out on top a little bit on that exchange. Still very even in terms of kills, in terms of gold, in terms of experience. The only difference is that Hype Unit won the first game.
I feel like Hype Unit's composition is okay with going a little bit later, but they wanted the idea of maybe we just insta-win the game around the Hercules right away. And I think that strategy can work. But the problem is when you're going up against a team like Obey, who's played against Aurora's Hercules that insta-win games on the regular, it's just a little bit different. I mean, Aurora is Hercules. I mean, he is the premier Hercules player in the league right now. Saying Inbound can't match that is not a slight at Inbound at all. It's just reality.
Oh, I definitely agree, but I think there's, even without being this prestige Hercules of the entire world, is still fitting to have a Hercules in the rest of the draft from Hype Unit. There's great control with a root from Layers, the knockup from Wolves, another knockup from Crimson. Maybe Inbound is going to be playing setup, man, for the rest of the CC to follow suit, as oBoronic should be able to eventually get Gem of Isolation and really control space in these team fights.
Mineral looks for Inbound once again. Good damage. Ducky's up, and he doesn't find anything underneath that mid-tower. Attempt was there. Wolf's going to meet up with Weekend. Beads used, and he needs him, as are the Cats. Layers doesn't have that ultimate. Remember, Mineral chased it out earlier on. Wolves goes in, but ultimately realizes he can't find that kill. Mineral's ultimate is up, and they might try and punish Wolves, but my man, level 11, I'm sure he's ready for this. I don't know if Mineral is ready for Inbound, however. That CC chain perfect, and Inbound notches number 6.
He used the Mink form to cut the distance there, and his ultimate was used earlier on to Layers, so no way he was getting out of that one. Great collapse from Hype Unit on a vulnerable target, without health sustain, without an escape there, successfully invading the blue buff to follow it up, getting the stuff after the stuff.
1-4 so far for Mineral. Definitely not the ideal situation for your support when your back is against the wall here in an elimination game.
Well, I'd rather see Mineral be 1-4 than Wowy 1-4, to be fair.
Sure.
So that's not the worst start for Obey Alliance in this game number 2, but it's definitely not the best ending for them either, because they need to bounce back in the set, being down 0-1 in this best of 3.
On the left-hand side of the map, we poked our heads over a little bit. Every time it's been Wowy bullying Crimson, but even despite that, Crimson with a slight level lead. Shoutouts to getting back camps as Jing Wei, where it feels awfully free. And the fact that Crimson has been getting bullied but hasn't died, hasn't given up a whole lot of buff control, that's important. Losing with grace is a skill that needs to be learned.
He's half the damage, player damage so far from WoW, and he's totally okay with it being 2 levels up at this point in the game, where Gold Fury can be highly contested as we're approaching the 14-minute mark.
Crimson, in fact, will clear out vision on that Gold Fury just in case. I mean, Jing Wei, just such a good power farmer. It's so hard to keep pace with her. She can get to so many fights that you just can't as a long laner. And Crimson has done his job so far. Remember, he was a mid laner until very recently, picked up by this team when LayersSlays decided to step down. Inbound around the back, finds Moswal, that's his beads, and the chase is going to be on for the enemy Thoth. No A gets used, Crimson gets his first kill, massive taunt from Mineral, but it's a little bit too late. Ducky's dunk does some good work, oBoronic falls and weakens dot damage at the same time, but Ducky's going to lose his life. 3 for 2, Hype Unit and Obey brawl in the jungle, but the level 17 Jing Wei stays alive, which makes this Gold Fury a possibility.
That one team fight more than doubling his total player damage as Crimson, almost matching that of Wowy. Gold Fury still being leashed. All eyes on Wowy. No ultimate this time.
Oh, this is risky though. Crimson uses the ultimate just to reset and try and kill Weekend. Wowy gets taken care of by Layers on the other side, and Crimson chases Weekend back. This Gold Fury now guaranteed for Hype Unit, and Weekend's gonna get a consolation buff. I don't think that's going to be enough to make it happy, though. Hype Unit, the first objective of the game and the first real lead of the game. 2K gold, 2K experience in their favor.
And that was a, what, 4 for 1? Almost a full-on deicide as Weekend survives. Could be an unofficial deicide, but Inbound just narrowly off the mark there. Good reaction timing from Weekend.
Very, very close. Inbound has been a big part of this game so far for Hype Unit. Not that feels like you're winning the game by yourself that Aurora often has on this Hercules, but still a super big impact so far. Many, many plucks that have resulted in kills. He gets that whole fight started by his pathing underneath Moswal. pushing him into the teeth of Hype Unit.
I mean, with 1, 3, and 6, he's been a part of 70% of his team's 10 kills thus far, inbound all over the map, and despite having those 3 deaths, he's not shy to continue to go for those aggressive plays, blinking by himself. A lot of confidence from this Hercules support, as they need that frontline confidence when you're dealing with a squishy backline such as Merlin, such as Jing.
Wolves gonna keep this going. Ducky actually has to use the ultimate because he knew Inbound was on the way, but that frees up this tier 1 tower with ease for Wolves. This game plan of setting Ducky behind, getting Wolves ahead has worked so far for Hype Unit. As once again, the Warriors smack one another, but Inbound again with the better end of it. Mineral is gonna die to that dot damage. Oboronic's flamethrower gets it done. Not a great ultimate from Moswal. Crimson looking for the last few autos, but can't find them. Wolves trying to handle 2 by himself, but he doesn't get into the ultimate. Ducky gets revenge on his lane opponent, and Obey Alliance at least gets something.
Good timing from Wowy on the time stop, cashing out the Wolves during the animation of his daze effect to really get into that World Serpent weekend. Wowy, Moswal looking for the chase down potential.
Layers still has ult. Moswal gonna dash in, and that'll force Layers back. Boosh Beads alert for Moswal, and his Aegis saves his life. Inbound won't have the same pleasure. Oboronic has to get on the run. Moswal uses both relics, but sets up a kill on the Hype Unit support.
Almost lucky there was Inbound. He saw blood in his eyes as he pulled out Moswal. He waited out for the beads, and I guess he just assumed Moswal didn't have the Aegis as he did commit the driving strike, and that would have been a worthy sacrifice if they killed Moswal in the process. But honestly, if I'm Hype Unit, I'm not worried about losing my support. They're not picking up Moswal because they can't get any real objectives off of it, and now that is a long double relic timer cooldown that Hype Unit can exploit.
No ultimate for Crimson, but he's got both relics. The kid is level 19, by the way. 3 levels up on Wowy. We were saying that he's kind of stayed afloat in the lane so far. He joins into these team fights, and he's the one sinking other people.
You know, my man is a PvE player in the WoW servers.
Yep.
He is not going to Ogremar looking for any sort of battles right now. He's just casually farming away, almost at level 20. And when you are out-leveling the minutes on the clock, that is the sign of a great farming player.
Crimson definitely looking comfortable in this new role for Hype Unit. No Fury for 145, but certainly a buff to take. They all snag purple. No one from Obey willing to contest that. The lead has grown since that Gold Fury, now up to over 3K. A marginal growth, but one that's noticeable.
Perfect timing.
Mineral this time dodges out what Inbound is throwing at him. I mean, I like this. Just group up around Crimson, man. The only level 20 in the game, the only one close. Other people will hit level 20 eventually. I like this idea. Just put the ball in his hands.
He's got a great power spike, finishing off the chin size after the executioner. It's really hard to stop his DPS from being a factor when Mineral is going to commit with that turtle form knockup onto Inbound.
Stunned on Inbound, walled off as well. He's in a little bit of trouble, but mitigate wounds is good. Another final judgment that doesn't land, but Inbound gets the heal right on time. Mineral gets pulled back in, and Ducky gets knocked up by Crimson right as soon as he lands. Still can't keep the fight going. As Layers blinks in, finds one. May have to lose the ultimate, and he will. But it looks like a good disengage coming from Hype Unit. Weekend might want to keep this going as he sees low health bars. Slow doesn't land from the D-Claw. And even though Moswal is healthy, no ultimate for him. Hype Unit, one and done. They get out of danger.
But Fury due to respawn at the same exact timing that Ducky will respawn, so maybe still could play defense there if that teleport relic is available. Losing tower after tower, Hype Unit are really applying a lot of pressure onto Obey Alliance that is still down 0-1 in this best of 3 set.
This is what makes Hype Unit so scary. I mean, game 1, Crimson and Layers pop off. They both have insane games. Oboronic is really under siege all game long. Game 2, Inbound is having a great beginning. He's baiting out everything you need him to and setting up the team at the same time. And Crimson on a completely different pick, completely different playstyle, popping off once again. Inbound on the receiving end of some damage, but not enough to make him think twice about where he is. In fact, Wowy's the one brought back in, and he nearly got one-tapped by Crimson and those auto attacks. But that sends Wolves out on a mission, man. He pushes everybody back from Obey Alliance. They don't have enough damage to kill him, but certainly enough to stop him in his tracks. Oni Fury has respawned, and Crimson right back to it. Ducky gonna try and get involved, but Hype Unit already has the Fury. Mineral has the ultimate ready to go, and Inbound is the target. Boys, I don't know about this one. Hercules does fall, but they commit an awful lot. Ducky falls for it. Wowy getting low. Wolves has the kitties on him, and the dot damage and Moswal combined. I was concerned, Tully, but I guess I didn't need to be. They get Inbound and Wolves, the frontliners for Hype Unit, in the dirt.
And now Obey should be able to counter push with that 2-for-1 advantage in the mid lane. The tower less than 50% health, but it looks like Hype Unit are not willing to let this one go for free. They are posturing like they're going to defend this one. Layers still with that Mystic Rush. Oboronic and Crimson can still make a difference as well. So Obey thinking about how they want to approach this. Moswal just uses dash.
Oh, Oboronic actually dashes in, as does Crimson. They're looking for Moswal. He's got relics. This is ambitious. Is Crimson actually going to ult in? Because they're looking for Mineral in mid, and they're going to get him. Oboronic and Layers combine to take down the enemy support in what was a curious decision, but Hype Unit clearly had the information. They knew that they had the opportunity to dash in.
Great sleight of hand. Crimson distracts Wowy and Moswal. Meanwhile, Weaken was farming on the right side of the map. And then unfortunately, Mineral left to his own devices under his own tier 1 tower. Ducky was still respawning from the last team fight. Obey Alliance, they find a little bit of a power play window and they can't convert.
Now, despite the success so far for Crimson, Inbound, the rest of Hype Unit, Weaken has been able to stay nice and safe so far. 3-0-5 for him. 2-1-5 for Moswal, who's level 18, a 2-level lead for him over Oboronic. So even though Crimson has a 2-level lead over his lane opponent, it's evened up in the carry roll. This is a good Pyromancer pull. Hype Unit gonna get that one. No one ready to contest. Frenzy's up in 15 seconds. I wonder if Hype Unit's gonna consider the big fire.
I wouldn't be surprised. And like you mentioned on
6K
on Weaken slash line, that 3-0-5 seems to be very misleading on this Bastet. The way he's been playing is clean.
Whoa, Moswal under siege on this right-hand side. Boulder doesn't land, but that ultimate just disrupts him long enough. Inbound, make sure he doesn't get the final judgment off. Good dunk in from Ducky, but he's got to immediately exit back towards his team. Cat's doing work as Weaken picks up 2 with just 1 leap. Good top for Mineral, disrupts Crimson, but my man standing tall. Otto's hitting hard, and Hype Unit has to back up. A 2-for-1, a bit of a dive onto Moswal, ends up costing them. They get the carry, but they lose 2.
Yeah, I don't know about that play, but they do a lot of chip damage as well under that tier 2 tower. Crimson still wanting to fight. Both Mineral and Wowy got off their ultimates just in the nick of time to continue that fight. And when you're going beyond that tier 2 tower line, how are you going to protect your own backline? Oboronic left to his own devices there. This is a level 16 Merlin that's been struggling, unfortunately, because of how much farm Crimson has gotten for himself in that lane. Oboronic not able to do the same on his side of the map. A 2-level deficit for this Merlin.
He started that fight half HP because he met up with Weaken in the mid lane. He was able to get away from him, but then joining the fight at half health, didn't find a chance to use his relics. I mean, maybe if you Aegis the pounce damage, you live, but then the chase is on from Obey. I just don't see a good window out for him if that's the pathing he has to take. Clearly struggling a little bit so far. Bottom of the player damage on his team besides Inbound, but not far behind what Layers has provided. Don't think Oboronic's been a non-factor so far by any stretch. I mean, he's been a part of 11 of Hype Unit's 15 kills.
Obey are doing a good job of defending some of these towers, or at least getting a positive effect with these 2-for-1s, but they just don't have the timing window to get the objectives. Weaken getting 2 more picks at the end of that last team fight, being 5-0-5 now, still not really getting the impact that he needs to get the objectives. Something needs to happen for Obey Alliance to start controlling the pace of the game. Maybe look for some flanks from Weaken, trying to make sure that Hype Unit aren't going to cleanly gather up on one side of the map. Get some good declaws and some poke damage, hindering Hype Unit's total health bar.
No relics from Moswal for 30 seconds on the beats, 50 on the Aegis. Hype Unit certainly looking for him in that window. Layers gonna head on over to the right-hand side. Looks like they're willing to just split this up, try and get Layers level 20. He has completed that runic shield, but he wants to finish the Transcendence. Wall from Ducky. Escape. Keeps Inbound from escaping. Final Judgment comes through, but it's not enough damage. Inbound is able to survive. Mineral very low, and a good dunk from Ducky may have saved his life. Wolves does get into that World Serpent, and Layers has joined the fray. Ducky needs to teleport away, and Hype Unit, both tanks, low on HP, but still alive. Crimson may have been a little bit too aggressive with the positioning. Weaken is there with the blink in, puts out some damage, but not quite enough. It's a bloodbath in mid, but neither team loses anybody.
I can't believe no one died in that whole encounter. Ducky and Weaken making a lot of damage happen, but Hype Unit surviving. And this was a great start for Obey because they took that fight outside of the tier 1 tower with this gold deficit because Layers was split pushing on the right side of the map, trying to get to that level 20 marker. If they waited even like 5 more seconds, that would have went downhill very quickly for Obey Alliance.
Problem for Crimson is that he uses his beads towards the back end, but problem for Obey is that they don't back after that engagement. They're still a little bit poked from that last fight. Crimson's certainly going to be a target, but has his ultimate ready to go. No blink up for Mineral quite yet. Full Fury reset, stun onto Inbound once again, but Weaken gets knocked up, and look at that damage coming from Crimson. Then right into the driving strike, and Inbound puts Weaken in the dirt. Mineral's gonna follow right next to him, and Ducky might be the third one. Crimson is swinging right now on this Jing Wei. Wolves right alongside him. Hype Unit get 2, and what Obey thought was just a friendly little poke exchange. Hype Unit anything but. They're gonna back, and I imagine this is a fire call.
It has to be. When you're ignoring a total Gold Fury winning on the left side of the map, you got your eyes on the real prize. And with the Fire Giant, still not the enhanced in about 3 more minutes time, this is going to open the window for full-on tower sieging potential. 4 towers remains for Obey Alliance, 5,000 gold collectively.
I don't know, though.
So that's more valuable than just a singular Gold Fury.
Anvil of Dawn and Final Judgment up and ready to go. Here goes Ducky, straight to the sky. Fire Giant getting lower. Moswal not charging quite yet. Now he will. Maybe looking for Fire Giant, but resets because Hype Unit did the same towards that Fire Giant. No, they don't take it. I thought Moswal had it, but Hype Unit able to secure over that Thoth ultimate. Hype Unit just juggle around that Fire Giant so well. Moswal had to fire it off with no charge whatsoever.
That's about as close to a coin flip as you can get.
I'll tell you what,
I don't
that
know
is
what
something
got
else.
that. I don't know what got that over the Final Judgment, but I'm sure Hype Unit are thanking their lucky stars because I like the call and the ambition, but they had no way of really zoning out the surviving members out of Obey, like Ducky diving in the back line, and then the range from Moswal's Final Judgment. You can't spread yourself that thin, so Hype Unit commit, they come out on top, and now with this Fire Giant for 3 more minutes, they're about to get 5,000 gold if they get all these towers.
An ambitious call for an ambitious team. And Hype Unit, they make it work. A 10K lead now at 28 minutes. Obey Alliance can feel their season going away. If they lose this game, they are eliminated. Let's take a look back at that Fire Giant and see what happened, because that is a huge play to end up securing this. I mean, this must be something small. I mean, this is where Ducky comes in. This is still going to be a little bit before Fire Giant gets taken down. Got to speed it up a little bit, and yet it's a Boronic tick damage from the one.
It must have been. I have no idea still.
That is crazy. That is a razor-thin margin. While we were in the INAP instant replay, Obey did take the Pyromancer, but a pittance compared to what Hype Unit is going to be able to get, I imagine, off this Fire Giant power play. They've got a lot of towers left to take, Toli, but that means that's gold on the map. This is going to catapult their lead to a point where Obey, I don't know that they can contest the next fire.
3,000 gold remaining for these tier 2 towers. That's quite a hefty lead now, and we're seeing the siege power be a real thing. As Obey Alliance, they've been consistently focusing out Inbound this entire set on the Fenrir and now the Hercules, and with the pickup of the Spirit's Row, that's been keeping Inbound alive a lot. That 15% damage mitigation. He gets hit by the time stop, enough of a window to pop the mitigating wounds heal, get off to back to half health anyway from the Spirit's Robe, mitigating that damage, and the rest of Hype Unit are free to return fire uncontested.
Now the tier 2 tower is the only one left for Obey Alliance. I don't think Obey is looking to defend on towers at this point. Uh-oh. Just saw a little bit of an effect on Crimson. Fat finger on the Aegis. Is that important against a Thoth and a Chronos, you think?
You might think
Thor, Bastet. That's a lot of damage. I wonder if that puts a hamper in this push. I mean, only a minute, so you've got a couple waves to try and make it work.
Now, to be fair, Obey hasn't seen the Aegis being popped.
They have not.
So,
actually, they may have. They have a ward by Red Buff where he popped it, I don't know how close he was to that ward, but they may have seen it. Well, they wouldn't have seen the actual effects, right? It's only what they can see on the map. So yeah, they won't know the Crimson Aegis from that position. But I mean, at some point you got to try and not execute the Thor stun straight into a Final Judgment combo.
Yeah, but not on a Jing way.
Yeah.
She can, if she survives with 10% health, you're not getting the kill after you use the Anvil of Dawn.
Looks like Hype Unit's not deterred. Inbound into the Phoenix. He pushes Mineral. That Final Judgment doesn't find anybody. Two-man taunt for Mineral after the fact. Might not have been good enough. Wolves gonna separate the team. Look at how he grouped them all on this left side wall. Layers goes right in with his solo laner, but Ducky undeterred. He's gonna go up. Big dump coming. That's 3 people for Ducky, but he gets crushed by Crimson once again. Left side Phoenix is gonna be the focus for Hype Unit, and it looks like Obey won't be able to get it inbound with a huge ball. Wowy's dead, and so might be Obey's season. They've got 2 dead for Hype Unit, and they might be looking to end them right here.
It looks like Hype Unit are going to disengage for the moment. Fire Giant buff has now dwindled. Inbound, a little bit of trouble. The rest of Hype Unit trying to regroup. A good poke into another push.
Inbound, stepping up and pushing Hype Unit to the top. Obey Alliance right on the edge. Only Weekend and Moswal left to defend. The console team from North America came in with high expectations, and they are going to send Obey Alliance packing. SCL shows up and eliminates a SMITE Pro League team.
Let's get hype for Hype Unit console coming out big. Unfortunate for Obey Alliance, as yesterday they lost to Simplicity 0-2. Hype Unit, though, were not deterred after their loss to OCG. A very close game number 3 yesterday that translated very well into today, winning 2-0.
Console's revenge on Weekend has been complete. Season 2, Weekend and Envy come over and show the entire scene what's up. And they win the first ever Xbox Invitational. Xbox has gotten their revenge today. Inbound eliminates his friend Kurt. And Hype Unit moves on. Obey Alliance don't win a single game here at Placements.
A student toppled over the sensei. Former
right.
teammates before and now. Inbound succeeds in the upper bracket, or lower bracket rather, as Obey Alliance and Weekend gets knocked out.
Unbelievable performance from Hype Unit. I can't wait to get a chance to talk to them in the post-game interview. Stay tuned. We're gonna go to the desk for a post-game interview right now.
Unbelievable. Console topples the Pro League. Top manager joined here by Zeros, and we're just going to get right into it. 2-0. Obey Alliance, it was an hour-long kind of fright fest in the game number 1, but Zeros, game number 2 was Hype Unit up and down.
Yeah, well, what is going on there, man? Yeah, I mean, this game is still back and forth, kind of similar to the first game, but this game, Hype Unit has to control the whole game, has to goal lead the whole game. Then one big misstep by Weekend at the Gold Fury, goes too far, gets knocked up by the Jing Wei 1, I think, and I feel like that kind of lost them the game.
Yeah, here we have on the right side of the map, Layers just dodging. Ducky did not have the same sort of impact as he had earlier on in the sets, but Crimson, I mean, Crimson was level 20 by 18 minutes. This man was huge.
Yeah, this guy is amazing, man. Plays like a PC all-star almost. First game playing the Thoth, like one of the mage backline carries, plays so good on it. This game plays a completely different role with the Jing, like one of the late game hyper carry ADCs, and smashes it again. Like, what a player.
That's so impressive to me when you're able to show multiple sides.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if you're just good at the mages, but and here coming in the clutch, it's actually the Jing Wei basic attack that secures this one for a Hype Unit. Moswal so close. Look at that. Oh,
yeah, I couldn't believe that. When I saw that, I was like, oh, Obey got it. And then like, wait, what?
yeah, that was insane. And then Crimson here continuing just to tear it up. The positioning is what's impressive to me. Late game carry, like we said. I mean, you point and click, right? But I mean, that's a team. That's a team. They've been waiting. I mean, this is a team that has been on the top of their world, the console world, for a long time. And, you know, you don't get all the best competition there.
Yeah.
They've been just ahead of the pack for a while. They come to mid-season invitational, and we get a glimpse into what they could do. And that was with them playing on mouse and keyboard for only about a month or so, maybe even less than 2 weeks. And then here they've got some proper practice and players stepping up, and all of a sudden, you've got a team that's worth writing home about.
Yeah, just been practicing on a mouse and keyboard for a couple of months, coming in, beating an SPL team. Sure, it is a bottom SPL team, but still, you have to. This team, the Obey, has been playing all year in SPL on PCs, right? Practicing against other SPL teams, and these guys have been on the controller back home playing their SCL thing, you know, coming out with a win so big.
Once upon a time, we can quick swapped over to console and beat a couple of console kids on their turf. Now, the console kids bite back and beat Weekend on his turf. We're going to talk to him about it. It's Inbound, and it's LayersSlays.
Thank you, Zeros. I'm here with the winners. Congratulations, Hype Unit, both Layers and Bobby. How are you feeling after this win up against Weekend and the boys?
It felt really good to win. We just wanted to come in and beat some of the PC teams, and we got one down. I'm hoping to get some more.
Yeah, I mean, maybe PC teams, some SML teams, right? Not an SPL squad. I mean, Obey Alliance it looked really good towards the back end of Phase 2. Layers, let's start with you in Game 1. I mean, really long game, but you in the late game in particular, it just felt like it was impossible for them to do anything against you.
It's just as soon as I got some my build online and I got a couple defense or a little bit of defense, the Merlin was my biggest problem because I'd go in and then he'd just stance switch and that'd be all my health. But after that, I was going on Wowy because I had primarily physical defense, and then Wowy just couldn't play the game because Set's just so strong, so it's really hard for him.
And in game number 2, Inbound, for you specifically, playing the Hercules, you were hitting some really clutch pulls towards the end of that game there. What were the comms like for you guys?
I don't know. I was just shouting whatever came to mind. I don't know. Just literally whatever would come to mind, I just yell it. I'm the best, baby, stuff like that. I don't know. I just shout a lot.
I mean, that's got to feel particularly good for you Inbound, especially against Kurt, your former teammate. I know you guys are boys. I mean, does it feel a little bit bad that you knock him out, or does it make it that much sweeter?
Yeah, I mean, it made it even worse because they were I think they were the first SPL team that let us scrim them. So I don't know, just shout out to those guys for just giving us the chance to scrim them. And yeah, I wish it wasn't us. I wish they would have gone far with us, but you got to do what you got to do when you have to play against them.
So with this victory, who do you guys play now in the next side of the bracket?
Hype SML,
Hype Unit, SML.
The other
Hype versus Hype. How is that matchup going to go in your guys' head?
probably pretty easy. Another 2-0. I don't know. I don't expect much else.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We were kind of beating down on him in scrims, but it's just scrims at the end of the day. So.
Oh boy, it's just scrims.
He brought up scrims. That's the one thing. Just don't bring up scrims.
GG for the SML boys.
Yeah.
Congratulations on a huge win today. Excited to see you keep going forward. Let's throw it back to Tom and Zeros on the desk.
Really glad to be able to get to see those guys behind the scenes. Again, the PC world stays in the PC world. It wasn't until MSI where all of a sudden you see all these PC pros go, who's this Layers guy or whatnot? But big personalities there, Bobby Inbound and LayersSlays. Man, these guys are here. And not only are they here for this game, as you said, confident against the next one as well. And, before we close the book on the Hype Unit guys, you were also talking about sure, you're winning the team fights, but you were talking about the builds. You were really liking what they were going for there.
Yeah, I mean, everything was just good. I'm super impressed by every single player on the team. Sometimes you have one player oh, he didn't play that well, or something was wrong with the build, but I'm just super impressed with everything they did really, and how they played together, and how they play around objectives, pretty much everything. I couldn't have asked for better plays, I think. Yeah,
and at the end of the day, just good Smite, right? Obey kind of bringing it back and forth as well. So fantastic end to day number 2. That's going to do it, though. Tom Banninger and Zeros here representing the rest of the squad. All of us putting together the work and letting the players shine. Tomorrow, we're back in the building, 11 a.m. Atlanta time. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Peace, and much love to you.